the time the committee lapsed, we had also issues with the budget committee. In fact, that's what makes me stand. The distribution that had been done by the budget committee in terms of resources, you remember, we had questioned it. And therefore, for me, allowing another unit or a different setup to do that reallocation would be very, very important. And I want to convince the honorable member speaking on this, that you yourself, you are a victim just like myself on the distribution that was done by the previous budget committee. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I heard what the Honorable Jack Wamboka has raised, and I agree to an extent with the response by Honorable Omboko. Because one, Honorable Speaker, for Honorable Amboka's benefit, it's not the first time that the Speaker is directing that the budget process, whether it's BPS or even the budget itself, be done by the liaison committee. Indeed, those of us who were here in the 11th Parliament, you remember, mid-term, just like now, the entire Budget and Appropriations Committee was disbanded by the House through a motion that was tabled by the late Honorable Jacoyo Midiwo that dismissed the entire Budget and Appropriations Committee of the House. And for the rest of that term, for the next 3 years, the budget process, making process was done by the liaison committee under the able chairmanship of the then Deputy Speaker, Honorable Cheboy. We still have a liaison committee, Honorable Speaker, and I hear the Jack's concerns that the minority might not be represented. But when committees sit, as the Honorable Mboko has said, they do not sit as committees of the majority or minority, they sit as committees of the House. But more importantly is that whatever outcome of a committee's report or the outcome of a committee's work must and will end up in this plenary, where we are all represented and we are representing the people on whose behalf we are engaging in that budget-making process on. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I do not find in my thinking anything wrong with the liaison committee as currently constituted, considering both the BPS and even if you were to move on to do the budget, the supplementary budget too, the liaison committee is well placed to consider those. And again, Honorable Amboka is asking, is it that the chairs of these committees, the departmental committees, will be considering their own budgets? It's true. They actually present their own budgets before the Budget and Appropriations Committee. And what the Budget and Appropriations Committee does is to weigh what has come from each of the departmental committees. And the chairs of the departmental committees, I remember when I was chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, some chairs opted to request to sit in the Budget and Appropriations Committee as we considered what was also coming from other committees, so that they're able to understand from the ceilings they have what is being taken away from the departments and going where. And nothing stops any chair of a committee or indeed any member who has interest in the BPS process from seeking the chair's permission, the deputy speaker or whoever will be chairing the liaison committee, to appear before that committee should you have an interest that you want to engage in that process. But hopefully, Honorable Speaker, as we indicated in the House Business Committee yesterday, and I believe the Leader of Minority is not here, but the Minority Whip is here, we are completing the reconstitution of all these committees. And I am sure that's why, Honorable Speaker, you did not see myself, Honorable Millie, Honorable Junet here this morning. And part of the yesterday evening, we will be completing this work, and our whip will be completing this work. The Selections Committee is due to sit tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. Once we complete that and the reconstituted committees list is approved by the House Business Committee, we should be able to reconstitute these committees, and hopefully they would even catch up before we finalize with both the debt management strategy paper, BPS, and the supplementary appropriations bill. But just to reassure Jack Wamboka, there is absolutely nothing to worry. Whatever outcome will come back to you here in plenary to approve. And Honorable Speaker, I believe Jack looks very well satisfied now.
First of all, Honorable Wamboka, in future when you have a matter of that nature, as a matter of courtesy, approach the chair and tell the chair that you have such a matter to raise, or even go to the Speaker's chamber so that we can be able to deal with it. Be that as it may, what Honorable Mboko Milemba and the Majority Leader have said partly deals with the matter, and is not without precedent. On February 16th, 2016, Honorable John Mbadi Ng'ong'o raised exactly the same point of order when there was a similar situation. And the Speaker ruled that because of very strict timelines in the budget process, and because we have the liaison committee that can step in and handle the matters, the House should not allow a vacuum to prevail. And the Speaker directed that the liaison committee, as it is now, should handle the issues of budget. Number two, this matter came up in the House Business Committee yesterday. So if you had properly consulted with the Minority Leader, Honorable Junet, the House Business Committee unanimously agreed that in the interest of meeting constitutional timelines, and that looking at the totality of the issues at hand, no prejudice will be occasioned, the liaison committee will deal with this issue until the committees are constituted. And I directed that both sides of the House, the leadership, must be ready with the constitution of the reconstituted committees by end of the day tomorrow, so that we can be able to open next week with committees in place. Those that have been reconstituted differently, elect their chairs and get on with the work. On the issue of the percentages on CDF, we have a CDF committee in this House led by Musa Sirma, but I think it's one of those that have lapsed. I'll direct that as soon as the committee is reconstituted, your matter be placed before them so that they can deal with the matter together with the committee for finance, not finance, for budget, so that where there are percentages locked in the Constitution, they must be respected. And we'll ensure that that is done, because I'm a firm believer in CDF and what CDF does in the country, and any shilling less on CDF affects wananchi directly. It is so directed. Thank you. Yes, Wamboka, you have something else?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm well guided on the issue of liaison, and similarly on the issue of CDF. It's just a worrying trend that even Kera money, Honorable Speaker, you may not be aware, and we will be bringing a substantive motion to deal with that. Even Kera money has been cut, revised downwards.
I thought Kera is subject of a court dispute between a group, I understand, surrogate litigants engineered by COG, competing against the interests of your constituencies in management of some Kera funds. It is a matter that we are dealing with.
Let's, Honorable Speaker, we will need your direction, because we need to be very firm. If they are surrogating, COG surrogating, we can also surrogate. So that, because why should we be the people all the time?
Parliament is not looking for any surrogates. We are defending that suit with all the veracity we have.
Honorable Speaker, in the meantime, Honorable Speaker,
Yes.
why would Kera be revising these figures downwards? As the case is in court, why can't the status quo remain
Yes,
as the
Millie.
case continues?
Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, yes, Millie, then cases.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my concern from what you've just said, that as National Assembly, we are not surrogating, we are defending.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, when you are always under attack, sometimes attack is the best defense. Mr. Speaker, if the COG is actually surrogating somebody else to take away work that helps in our constituencies, and yet, very clearly, COG under the fourth schedule have no constitutional mandate to give bursaries. But because we know it helps people, we are closing our ears and our eyes to the fact that what they're doing is actually unconstitutional. So instead of defending, why don't we also attack? So that we are all fair. It's the National Assembly has very many brilliant minds. But I don't know, like Paul says in the Bible, you foolish Galatians, who bewitched you? Foolish parliamentarians, who bewitched you? Why are we allowing people to always attack parliament? When we also have brains, we can also attack in courts. If they want to take away care that helps our people, then let us go to the Constitution. ECD, there is no bursary for ECD. The constitutional mandate for governors are very clear. On education, ECD. I don't know any child that pays bursary for ECD. We only keep quiet because we know it helps our people. But if you want to bring the war on, bring it on. We will meet you halfway.
Cases.
I'm here. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. My concern, Mr. Speaker, is drawn from continuous, systematic micromanaging of treasury issues on matters that touches our people directly on the ground. As we're even looking at the issues now that the treasury is deliberate on reducing the NG-CDF and the budget policy statement for financial year 25-26, I'm aware that there is stern instructions that has been given to the regional managers or regional directors for KERA not to award letters to the recent publicized notices inviting contractors to undertake the works. They did deliberate invite bids. They have done the process. They have completed procurement process. But now they have been instructed not to issue award letters for works to start just because somebody somewhere want to reduce or want to control releases. Whereas we are aware, the question of the money in question is around 10 billion. All some of the money are more than the 10 billion. What is happening on the awarded jobs already? It looks like somebody somewhere wants to utilize this particular situation to perpetrate their interest in not allowing money or funds to be utilized on the ground for service delivery. Mr. Speaker, I think this one, we have to look at beyond this. There are some people even inside Treasury that they want to play games with this particular situation. It is not the issue of the court, but they have a direct interest in manipulating the services to the people, especially those that are being oversighted direct to the constituency level. It looks like even these issues of Council of Governors are being facilitated by people also on the other side, so that they confuse service delivery, where people of Kenya have been receiving services directly on the constituency level by virtue of supervision and oversight that is being provided for at that level. I think, Mr. Speaker, it is time to call a spade a spade. Somebody somewhere must take responsibility on this. Thank you.
The Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Maybe just to inform the House and jog your memories a bit, you know we came from a very long recess. Last year, we published the County Additional Allocations Bill of 2024-2025, which went to the Senate and they put this RMLF money, road maintenance levy fund money, in that bill. We were to go into mediation, and unfortunately that mediation process lapsed at the end of the last session. Those who were here last week, we just republished, and I think we've already read for the first time, that bill republished without the RMLF money in the bill. And we will process it without RMLF, because that is the right thing to do. And probably is a good time to speak to our colleagues in the other house that many counties, I had an engagement with 2 governors, and let me not mention their names here, Honorable Speaker, but they were telling me in one of them in their county, they have money for KUSIP going to about 1.1 billion shillings that they cannot access because some other governors want to fight over RMLF. And they were telling me in their county, RMLF, they would only get 113 million. And the governor was asking me, what sense is there to fight over 113 million and lose for my county money going especially to the most critical elements like healthcare, provision of water, and even roads, urban roads in towns that are helping that county generate additional revenue to the tune of 1.1 billion shillings. Honorable Speaker, there are few governors, very few of them, who are hinging on this thing of RMLF. Honorable Speaker, you remember even when we were debating this bill last year, we reminded them that back in 2021, when we had the same stalemate, the national government in one instance added a whopping 53 billion shillings to the division of revenue bill for them to be able to cater for roads in counties, Honorable Speaker. Ask Kenyans anywhere in this country where they see governors doing roads. And I'm not asking members of parliament, I'm asking Kenyans. Kenyans can tell us which governors are doing any roads anywhere. If anything, Honorable Speaker, what happens is that the roads that are being maintained by KERA, governors then duplicate the same roads so that they loot from public coffers, Honorable Speaker. And we must call out this corruption for what it is, because it is nothing other than blatant corruption in the counties, Honorable Speaker. And they are not fighting for this money because they intend to maintain any road. In my constituency, Honorable Speaker, I have not a single road that I can show that the county government of Kiambu that has maintained in the last 3 years. None. And if you speak to constituents around the country, they will tell you the same. Honorable Speaker, read the Comptroller of Budget reports. How many counties are devoting money to development? Many are busy devoting money to freebies, things that are politically expedient and that are exciting to the masses, but not those sustainable things that members of parliament ensure through proper oversight of RMLF that KERA and KURA are actually maintaining roads in our counties and constituencies, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, we have pleaded with the executive through the office of the Deputy President, who is a chairperson of IBEC, to call to order through IBEC the Council of Governors. First, to withdraw that case in court, because there is absolutely no reason why 10 billion shillings would be lying idle at a time when we are about to get into the short rains, and Kenyans will be crying about roads that they cannot access their farms and get their farm produce to markets because governors are holding money through a court process, Honorable Speaker. We are pleading, and we have asked the Deputy President through IBEC to speak to the Council of Governors to first withdraw that case. But also, as a House, we will process the additional county allocations bill without RMLF. And let me tell them, it will never pass through the floor of this House. Let me not talk about courts. This House, this floor, RMLF is a live wire that you will never touch. And we will consult with the leadership in the Senate so that no senator even imagines that they can amend that bill when it goes to them to reintroduce RMLF. Because it will end up in another stalemate, a mediation process that we can tell them, even before it starts, it will go nowhere. Leave RMLF money, let Kera and Kura maintain the roads they maintain. Last, Honorable Speaker, speaking to the executive and the minister in charge of roads and infrastructure, and probably together with the Council of Governors, it is high time now that we properly reclassified all our roads. Proper reclassification. I have seen in some countries, Honorable Speaker, if you go to South Africa, you see a road marked with numerals and alphanumeric coding that clearly tells members of the public that this is a county road, this is a municipal road, this is a national government road. We must get to that level where the Ministry of Roads and Infrastructure does proper classification of roads such that if we have national government roads class A, let us know this is NGA, National Government Class A. If we have a county government road, let it be CG Class D or Class A or Class B, so that even Kenyans, and name those roads, so that also these members of parliament are not bashed by their constituents, because we are the ones constituents are close to. They keep bashing members of parliament over roads that do not concern members of parliament, because they have no budgets for them. And the governors who have money for maintaining these roads are busy buying chicks. Some buy maize flour, some buy dengue to give as freebies to constituents to excite people for political expediency. It is high time they also called out, and Kenyans must begin reading those Comptroller of Budget reports to see that counties are not devoting money to development. And that is why now we can't satisfy the insatiable greed for more money to steal. We can't satisfy their greed, honestly. We must maintain our position to offer meaningful oversight over Kera, Kura, and Kenha to deliver on maintenance and construction of roads. Because, you know, again, they assume that this money is managed by members of parliament. None of these 290 members of parliament representing constituencies, or even the 47 women reps, or even the nominated 12 members, manage this money. This money is managed through the regional offices of Kera, under the Director General of Kera and Kura. Members of parliament come nowhere near it. Members of parliament don't even sit in the procurement committees. Our only interest is proper and meaningful oversight for delivery of services to the Kenyan people. The others are only bothered about what they will steal. They want to steal from hospitals. They have looted hospitals. They have looted our water projects. They now are after roads. Honestly, who will satisfy their insatiable greed, Mr. Speaker? We cannot, and we will not satisfy by processing that additional county allocations bill with RMLF included. I hope my leader of majority in the Senate has heard me. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just want to add a few things to what the majority leader said. Mr. Speaker, this issue of RMLF has been on this floor now for some time, even since last parliament, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what I have come to realize, there is a systematic program going on in this country to disconnect members of this House from the public completely. Mr. Speaker, I don't know where that plan is hatched, Mr. Speaker, whether it is in the executive or in the judiciary or somewhere. Mr. Speaker, there is a serious plan to disconnect members of parliament, especially members of the National Assembly, from the public, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, people tell you that it is not your work to bring development to the people. If I cannot bring development to my people, what is the plan? What is the constitutional requirement of representation? You represent people so that you can speak on their behalf on the floor of the House to get resources to the public, Mr. Speaker, if I understand it well. Mr. Speaker, this is something that this House will not accept. Mr. Speaker, look at what's happening in the counties. We are not against devolution. We completely support devolution, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, we have to analyze since the last 10 or 12 years whether devolution has worked for this country. The only things we see in devolution is conferences every year that shows us beans, ndengu, carrots, cucumber, cassavas grown in our areas, Mr. Speaker. Those things have been happening since independence. My grandmother has been growing cassava since Kenya became independent, Mr. Speaker. That's what you are being shown in devolution conferences. There is nothing serious that has happened in terms of devolution since devolution came into place, Mr. Speaker. Truth must be said. We must be truthful to the people, Mr. Speaker. Sure. Look at the amount of money that has been devolved in this country. Trillions of shillings since devolution came into place. Nothing to show for it. Nothing, completely nothing, Mr. Speaker. Let's be honest to Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, we don't want to describe them as devolved corruption. But people are preoccupied. Mr. Speaker, can we have order here? People are preoccupied with the little money that has been devolved through NG-CDF, little money that has been devolved to the constituencies through RMLF, and people don't take note of the billions of shillings that are being devolved every financial year, Mr. Speaker. Counties are getting their money. They are never in arrears. Even if they're in arrears, it's 1 month, 2 months, in the end the money goes down to the ground. There are counties that are holding billions of shillings in their central bank accounts. I was reading in the newspaper the other day that there are counties that have not spent 48 billion shillings, Mr. Speaker. They are lying idle in their account. And they are still demanding for more money. They're saying, oh, the national government has not devolved. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, these people who are calling themselves here Nairobi, Kera and Kura, these people must know that these are organs of national government. They are not part of county government. They are oversighted by this house. This Director General of Kera, Mr. Speaker, this man is a joker. I can tell you for true. He thinks that he is supposed to report to counties. Which governor oversights him? Which county government oversights him? That man must be dragged here to this house under full committee of the full house, Mr. Speaker. And he must be told in no certain terms that he is supposed to report and to the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker. This is a man who thinks that he is supposed to work with county government. Which county government is giving him money? Mr. Speaker, you can go around to every constituency today, and we'll take you around as a speaker. The roads that are maintained by constituency development, by this RMF through the constituency, are known. In every constituency, they're not even more than 4 or 5. Majority of the roads are classified as county roads, and they're in pathetic condition, all of them. And they're asking for the RLMF for the constituency. The ones for the constituency are well maintained. Actually, the national government is trying its best to even tarmac majority of the county roads. Mr. Speaker, we cannot take this thing anymore lying down. We will put our foot down. We are tired of these shenanigans of counties and judiciary all the time saying CDF is unconstitutional, and these people are enjoying their monies. They are not delivering any services to the public, and the people who are supposed to do that work are being curtailed, Mr. Speaker. This matter must come to an end, and we are going to pass, as the majority leader said, the county revenue allocation, the extra money we are giving them through the bill that has been brought here, without RLMF. If they don't want money, the bill will get stuck here for good. You can continue with the one that you have been given at the beginning of the year. And I want to tell the Council of Governors, please, don't joke with members of Parliament. They have been elected just like the way you have been elected. You have votes. We got votes the same way you got votes. Some of you, we just go through waves. You know, there are people who are saying, when the new constitution was being formulated, governors should have been appointed job. There are people who are saying that. Yes. We can amend the constitution. Yes. If need be. Yes. So, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, we are saying, let us respect everyone's work as enshrined in the constitution and the laws, Mr. Speaker. And we must make sure that we are not supposed to be made like we are not supposed to bring any development to our constituency. A governor told me, Mr. Speaker, he told me on my face that, you know, your work is representation and oversight. You're just to go and make noise in Parliament. That is all. That's your work. You don't have any other work. I told him, my friend, when we are going to do the division of revenue bill, we will give you very little money if you talk like that. That's when you'll realize what power as the Constitution given to the National Assembly. So, Mr. Speaker, we support the devolution, but the county, what is this thing called? The Council of Governors. These are more first thing first. It's not in the Constitution. I don't know, it's in the County Government Act or something, Mr. Speaker, which we can repeal even that one. They must respect members of Parliament henceforth. And that is not anything we are begging for. Mr. Speaker, it's an order, and we will stand firm to make sure that our constituency gets development as required by law. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Your leaders have spoken. Can we end there and go to some other business? Yes. Yes. Yes, Karoli, what is it?
Much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I'll add on to what Honorable Millie had said, taking the war to them. Honorable Speaker, 12 years ago when we were writing the new constitution, the original proposal was to have 14 counties plus Nairobi. There were supposed to be only 15. We ended up with 47. During this period, we've seen what is happening. Most of the counties, as a matter of fact, have nothing to show for. You go to counties, what the governors do are cultural festivals. In a year, there'll be 6, 7 festivals. You don't even know which one you are at. There'll be this, there'll be that. County governments are building posho mills, others are building rice mills, things that even the central government is already divesting from. Mr. Speaker, I belong to a small group which is already doing a study whether the structure that we have for devolution is sustainable for Kenya. And the preliminary conclusion is that it is not. As a matter of fact, what would be more sustainable is to protect devolution and devolved funds, but to channel them through constituencies. And what that would mean, I'll give an example. Turkana, that gets about 11, 12 billion per year with 6 constituencies, each constituency for direct development would have 2 billion a year. In Suba South, the calculation that we have done, if I was to oversee the constituency for 10 years at the current amount of devolved funds, in 10 years we'll have resolved all the road networks, built hospitals, finished all the schools. We will be talking about new things. So I think the war that we should take to them, building on what Honorable Milia said, is to relook at the constitution and the structure of devolution and take away the counties and protect the funds, but channel them as development funds directly to the constituencies. Because that is what is working in this country. All the other things are not working. And that is the war that we need to take to them as a house. And probably if this house, on a bipartisanship manner, can come up with a working group to explore this and review, using experts, exactly what we are proposing, we will help this country. Devolution in its current structure is not sustainable, will never work. It's a den of corruption. It's a den of incompetent people. You go to functions, governors have carried truckloads of people praising them. Another group has brought people fighting. I don't know. It's all chaos. It's not working for this country. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Chepkonga.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to join my colleagues. You know, Honorable Speaker, I want to remind them. 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 12. The Bible says, remind them even though they know. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind the Council of Governors, even though they know that Article 95 of the Constitution is very clear, and it does not exist anywhere in any other article, Mr. Speaker. And it reads, for the avoidance of doubt, that the National Assembly represents the people of the constituents and special interests of the National Assembly. It says in 2, Mr. Speaker, the National Assembly deliberates on and resolves issues that are of concern to the people. Mr. Speaker, there is no other person in Kenya that has the power to resolve issues that are of concern to the people. It is only this house, Mr. Speaker. Even the courts themselves, I am being reminded by a layman here that the courts are also don't have power to resolve issues that are of concern to the people. Mr. Speaker, you know the other day we increased the RMLF from 18 shillings to 25. And now because we increased that money, they are now salivating. The reason we were doing so, Mr. Speaker, was to resolve issues that are of concern to the people. Mr. Speaker, you know, in the last government, they launched about 10,000 kilometers of roads. And you know, Mr. Speaker, there was no money to pay for those roads. And it is necessary that the RMLF was increased for purposes of paying off the outstanding bills with regard to those roads that have been constructed in those counties, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, for someone to come and say that they are holding 10 billion shillings because they are salivating for the 7 or 8 shillings that was increased is completely unfair and unconstitutional, Mr. Speaker. You know, people just read Article 95 and they just go to sleep. Article 95 says members of parliament have 4 roles: oversight, budgeting, representation, and legislation. Mr. Speaker, we budget. There is no one else under the sun in Kenya who has the role of budgeting of the resources of this country, which Kenyans pay as taxes, Mr. Speaker. In fact, the Senate or any other body cannot originate a money bill. It can only be originated from this house. That is the reason why Kara could not be passed until this house agrees. Mr. Speaker, we are not begging the Council of Governors. We want to ask them to withdraw that bill so that they can be able to get their money, which is more than the 10 billion shillings, Mr. Speaker. As members have just said, I also come from a constituency. I have never seen any Council of Governors repairing roads in Nairobi or maintaining them, Mr. Speaker. In fact, most of the time we are asked, please assist us, we know this is not your road. And we go and plead with the Director General of KERA, please, could you assist these people of Ainabkoi who have a problem with this road? And you know, Mr. Speaker, it is not a KERA road, it is a county road, Mr. Speaker. And we can give so many of them, there are plethora of roads that have been repaired by KERA that has nothing to do with what has been apportioned to them. And so, Mr. Speaker, we must stand very firm. In fact, we have now learned something, Mr. Speaker, that we can use the Sakaja route to stop some people from doing some funny things. No, I'm not saying it's a Sakaja route. No. The Sakaja route, Mr. Speaker, is very unfair.
That is criminal conduct.
It is a very criminal conduct.
Justify
but we are saying...
that is criminal conduct.
But we are saying, Mr. Speaker, we have just learned bad habits recently.
There is no justification for that.
I agree with you, Mr. Speaker. Yes. There's no justification at all. Yes. For people to pour cabbage on people's gates. Yes. You know, NEMA must in fact take action. That's what the majority leader is saying. Mr. Speaker, we are saying...
Are you saying, Jepkonga, if KPLC demands power payment from you, you go and cut down their polls?
No, Mr. Speaker, that's what I'm saying. It is absolutely criminal. It's a criminal enterprise. They are involved in some criminality, Mr. Speaker. Yes. And it is that we don't have any...
No country will condone that kind of criminal behavior.
Yeah, but we would like to ask the Senate to call to order Senator Sakaja for dumping waste on KPLC, Mr. Speaker. That is conduct unbecoming. Yeah, and the reason why people see us this way, Mr. Speaker, is because we are gentlemen and gentlewomen, and we like to follow the law. But we should not be taken like we have no teeth, Mr. Speaker. We can fight.
There are no gentlewomen, there are ladies.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Speaker. They are gentle ladies. No, it's just that one of them was being told she was not properly dressed yesterday.
Okay, finish up.
Yeah, I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support.
Honourable members, I'll close with Otienda Amolo, then Kainan, then GK. Only those, then we go to the next.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Exercise some brevity.
Mr. Speaker, first is information to the members. As the members are aware, we are in court on the NG-CDF matter.
Yes.
And it's currently before the Court of Appeal. And just next week, on 6th of March, we are appearing for directions. As we had indicated to the members, the court, we are fast-tracking the hearing. But that notwithstanding, it does not give anyone any authority to reduce anything. But the beauty with it, ultimately, members, is that we are the ones with the power. The executive can only make proposals. So it is within us to change what we need to change. And I agree with the ruling with the Speaker earlier that we must proceed as a matter of necessity. Secondly, on the RMLF matter, it is very interesting, Mr. Speaker, that the very people who are with us in court, who challenge the NG-CDF matter every day, who litigate up to the Supreme Court and come back and restart again, have never found it necessary to challenge any of the exercise of authority by the counties, including the bursaries. Strictly speaking, the county governors are supposed to deal with ECD and TVCs. Now, TVCs, you end up with students coming to the members of parliament to support them, even the institutions themselves. One would have thought that the governors would actually concentrate on the areas of their jurisdiction before they spill over. But many of us have usually not complained because in most of our constituencies, students are needy. So that even with all that, you still find other students who don't get it. But when then the same governors want to encroach into our area, then it calls for us to demonstrate that our power is not just latent, it is potent. And in that respect, Mr. Speaker, I think that as we go along, and we don't have to wait for your direction on this, we as members will be taking on these governors on many of these things, in court and outside court, in matters we filed and those ones filed by others, so that we can get what we call an equilibrium of power. So that people understand that actually this is where the power lies. It does not lie in courts, it does not lie in the executive, it lies here. Courts can interpret the law anytime, and they can interpret our actions anytime. But ultimately, they cannot stop us from making legislation however we want. Courts cannot stop us from exercising our powers in terms of the budget however we want. Let's send a caution to the governors that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Thank you.
They won't understand that English.
Thank you, Honorable Otienda Amolo, for order. Thank you, Otienda Amolo, for final agreeing with the Speaker that power lies here and not elsewhere. Kainan?
Mr. Speaker, allow me to join this debate. Mr. Speaker, this debate has two aspects, and I'm glad that today the leader of majority and the leader of minority have agreed on one thing, that this house has been reduced to a house of lamentations, Mr. Speaker. This August House, Mr. Speaker, once upon a time was an appendage of the executive. We freed ourselves, and you know it, how it used to be. But suddenly again, we are going back to the same, Mr. Speaker. I'm told the chairman of transport is here, Mr. Speaker. When an MD of a national government agency, without any due regard, without any consultation, just by a circular, negates everything that this house has passed, Mr. Speaker, then what is the implication? The implication is we are no longer the August House that we used to be. When the MD of Kera sits down, and yet we have an oversight committee called the Transport Committee. When the MD for Kura sits down, and yet we have a committee here, and negates what we have passed, Mr. Speaker, that has gone through all the stages, the only inference that you can make is this is no longer the August House. I agree with what the leader of majority has said. With the leader of majority and the leader of minority. Look, under the current constitution, and for those of us who have been part of this, we had certain considerations. Mr. Speaker, you know how we included devolution in the current constitution. You know how we captured equalization in the current constitution. CDF, all those now are floating in the air. The governors have gone to court to make sure equalization doesn't work. It's no longer functioning. The governors have gone to court to make sure NG-CDF is not working. The governors have gone to court to make sure RMLF is not working. The next thing they are saying is members of parliament have no role in the governance of the Republic of Kenya. Is that where you want to be? Is that where you want to be? That is where we are. To the extent that some of them are going public to say members of parliament have no role in the county affairs. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge this. I want to urge colleagues. There comes a time when people must be ready to make hard decisions. We need to do both summative and formative evaluation of all the resources we have devolved since the promulgation of the current constitution, so that we allow Kenyans to see the value of the billions and the trillions we have devolved, Mr. Speaker, as the true representative of the people, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, we'll sit here, lament, go to court. I'm glad what the Honorable Otiendo Amolo has said. But that's the court. What are we doing in the House here? The budget-making process is in our hands, Mr. Speaker. We are not using it. The oversight process is in our hands. We are not using it. The legislative power is in our hands. We are not using it, Mr. Speaker. Then what are we saying? Mr. Speaker, this group, Mr. Speaker, comprising of the Council of Governors, slowly they have taken over. One time, they blackmail the members of parliament. The other time, they blackmail the senators. They blackmail the executive. Everybody's been blackmailed. Under our watch, what are we going to do? This is what I want to suggest. We need to critically dissect the current constitution and address all the areas, the gray areas, Mr. Speaker, that ought to have added value to the well-being of the people we represent. If we do both summative and formative evaluation, Mr. Speaker, you'll realize the billions that have gone. I had the privilege of representing 2 constituencies, Mr. Speaker, and I am ready to take all of you for a benchmarking visit to Wajir West and Eldas and see what the national government has done over the last 10 years and what the county government has done over the last 10 years, and you'll be in a position to compare and appreciate that our constituencies still survive on budgetary supports from the national government.
Thank you.
Yet billions are devolved. My conclusion is this. Chairman Transport, if you are here, we cannot be under the threat of a Mayor MD of Kera. He has issued circulars, many circulars. In fact, Mr. Speaker, some of these MDs, because we have failed to bite, we have failed to act. I went to, yesterday in the House Business Committee, and I want my colleagues, the leader of majority and the leader of minority, to hear this. This is the first time, and I want all the members to hear this, in the history of NG-CDF, from July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, our proposals are yet to be approved. What are these other funds you are looking for? Where are your CDF proposals? You are being duped to ask to facilitate the bursary allocations. Where is the money?
Thank you.
Even the basic is not there. So chairman, former chairman of NG-CDF, I've been running after the CEO and the management of NG-CDF board. Where are the approvals? Where are the approvals for the fund managers to actualize? The approvals have not been done. What are we saying? Whose mistake is it? It's our mistake. That approval ought to have been in place by December so that we roll out the project. Yes. So we're all sitting. Let's stop complaining. Let's not reduce ourselves to a house of lamentation.
GK.
Can we act and bite constitutionally? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
GK.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to add my voice to this debate. Honorable Speaker, I want to remind members that the Act, the KRB Act, has not been amended, or neither has it been suspended. We have an act that stipulates how RMLF funds should be shared. And as long as that act stands, we will not allow anybody to take away any coin, any cent from our allocation, 22 and 10%. The committee that I lead, Honorable Speaker, has taken a position on this matter. We met the Cabinet Secretary yesterday and raised this issue, and he has assured the committee that he will support the position that exists. And this position is in the law, KRB Act. Honorable Speaker, I want to assure members that we will not cede any ground as far as these resources are concerned. We know what happens out there when governors are allowed to implement these resources. We do not see, we are not able to see anything that they do for our people. And Honorable Speaker, this money was set aside to avail to the people of Kenya what we call the common good. Honorable Speaker, we will stand with the people of Kenya and continue to serve them effectively by holding onto these resources.
Yes, Nabi, what is it?
Mr. Speaker, is it in order for the chairman of the Roads Committee to mislead the House that he is doing anything when we need to know he is the problem?
Chairman.
I think, Honorable Speaker, I do not have to respond to that, comment because it's he's totally out of order. I have been very consistent in my support for RMLF resources being appropriated through the constituency roads committees. And that is a position we have taken as a committee. Honorable Speaker, I want to once again assure members that we will continue engaging the ministry, the KRB, KERA, to ensure that nothing changes. The status quo remains. And the case that is in court, Honorable Speaker, I'll urge the executive to engage the governors and make sure and ensure that the 10 billion that is held by the courts is released for the purpose of serving our people. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Anton Olwoch, Nairobi colleagues of yours have asked me to give you an opportunity to say something.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. This morning, the 17 members of Parliament met with their regional engineers, and the very same question being discussed in this House was what we are discussing. Honorable Speaker, first, let me confirm that all the tendering for the RMLF Kera roads for Nairobi had been done. Letters expressing intention to award had been issued. And the unique problem that Nairobi constituency has, that unlike our other constituencies, the other 200 and so constituencies, is that we have to do tarmac roads or bitumen roads. Some of those roads are done in a layered form. Some of those roads are done in a sequential manner. So that when we tell the people of Nairobi that you cannot do 5 roads which you are tendered, you can only do 2 roads, on which wards are you going to select? These are the roads that I'm going to do, and which ones? There is a legitimate expectation, and especially when this member of parliament before this very same house raised this question as to why the ceilings were being brought down from 61 or 62 million to have that amount. That same afternoon, before I had even sat down, that circular had been withdrawn, Honorable Speaker. And so the House went and relaxed that this problem had been sorted, and advert put on the basis of 62 million. How again are we told post the fact, when the tendering has been done and awards already issued, that we can only do 2 roads? Honorable Speaker, I want to summarize by saying this. I am tempted to think that this House does not have the teeth that it claims to be. And I heard Honorable Kipchunga very well. This House must either prove that it is the senior house that it claims to be, because it cannot be that the executive can go and exact upon, the governors, exact upon the executive on the potential or prospective merger of Kera and Kura, whose intention is still the very same, withdrawal of the money that goes to your constituencies. If you haven't seen that, our leadership, and I'm speaking here so that Honorable Ichungwa can hear, when you sit with the executive, what is it that you tell them in terms of the ability to leverage your legislative power to the executive to bear? I think we are a house that is so much ado about nothing, including myself. We either show that we can do this or we go the Karoli way. In the interim, Honorable Speaker, let us summon the CS of roads here even tomorrow and discuss these things, because the members of parliament for Nairobi constituency, this is where all of you, the 290 of you, come here in between Tuesday and Thursday. Then you run to your constituencies. These roads are not maintained or done by the governors. I can confirm there is not a single tarmac road in Mathare constituency that has been done by the governors. So we must deal with this issue, and I suggest that we summon the CS tomorrow and suspend all our activities and address this issue. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Junet.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to, Mr. Speaker, to bring to the attention of the House matter of concern to the public, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are a country that is governed by the rule of law. And the last 2 days, Mr. Speaker, there was an episode in Nairobi County, Mr. Speaker, where people who could not pay their bills, electricity bills, Mr. Speaker, went ahead and dumped, I think, 1 truck or 2 trucks full of garbage, Mr. Speaker, in front of the premises of Kenya Power and Lighting Company, Mr. Speaker.
Garbage and swill.
Garbage
and swill.
And swill.
You know swill?
I know, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, go on.
Is it sewage? Is it sewage? Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I want to bring to the attention of the House, Mr. Speaker, that is not the way to do things. Mr. Speaker, because Kenya Power and Lighting Company, Mr. Speaker, is a very, very important institution in our country. And is a public listed company. And is a company that is oversighted also by this House. Mr. Speaker, many people have defaulted in paying their bills. It's not only Nairobi County Assembly, Nairobi County government. But Mr. Speaker, if you cannot afford to pay your bills, you negotiate with the person you owe money. You don't use other means to intimidate them and to make them, to make them let you go with their money. Mr. Speaker, I stand here to condemn that matter, Mr. Speaker, because it is uncouth and primitive, and it is an irresponsible way of dealing with an issue. Mr. Speaker, Nairobi City County of late has been doing a good job. They have been trying to clean the city, to remove, kiosks on the roadside that have encroached on the public pavements, Mr. Speaker. But this act they did yesterday, Majority Leader, is unacceptable. How can you, at this time, intimidate a government institution? Even though some of the major shareholders might be private, even some of them are members of this House, I know, of Kenya Power, and I'm told they're getting very good dividends this financial year because Kenya Power is doing very well. I don't know, he's not around now, but he's a serious investor in that place, Mr. Speaker. But that's very good. Even as we aspire to be that. Somebody who's younger than me, that I don't know how we achieve that. I'm really worried, Mr. Speaker. I need to pull up my socks and do something, Mr. Speaker. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, and that could be one of the reasons why we want to have change in the budget committee, maybe. Who knows? But I leave it there for people to decide. It's not in my place to judge anyone, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, the issue that I want to bring to the attention of the House is that the Nairobi County government must apologize and must desist from that kind of act going forward. The governor must apologize to the institution called Kenya Power and Lighting Company and residents of Nairobi in general. Because, Mr. Speaker, we cannot do that. Tomorrow, they will have a problem with NEMA. They will have a problem with any other institution. Is that the way you are going to solve your disputes? So, Mr. Speaker...
What will stop them from dumping garbage and swill outside your gate?
What will stop them? The Speaker is asking me from dumping garbage in front of my house. Mr. Speaker, that's a good question. Because if I don't pay for their services also, if I don't pay their water bills on time, or I don't pay maybe their service charge on time, they can dump garbage also in front of my house. Mr. Speaker, then they tell you, until you pay your dues, we are not going to remove any garbage from in front of your house. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a new phenomena that is, we have never seen it before. So, Mr. Speaker, the governor was elected by Kenyans through the UDA party. Even though we have some symbiotic relationship with ODM, which we are not yet confirming it because we don't know how I think there is some relationship that is not known that we need to understand where it is heading to. But Mr. Speaker, in spite of all that, with our symbiotic relationship with the governor, we have to condemn things when they are done wrongly. And that was a wrong act on the part of the Nairobi County government, Mr. Speaker. And we are not doing this we are warning people who might attempt to do that kind of nonsense, Mr. Speaker, because it might not end with them. There are other institutions also who can do that. There are others who can lock up your house, for not paying your dues or something. So, Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I want to say that act must be condemned and it must not be repeated again, Mr. Speaker. And if it is done, this House now will exercise its mandate of oversight. Mr. Speaker, nothing constitutionally stops us from summoning governors. Yes. Nothing. There is no in the Constitution that writes governors can only be summoned by the Senate. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution says Parliament can summon anyone. Parliament. Yes. And when you say Parliament, it is both the Senate and the National Assembly. Yes. That is Parliament. Parliament can summon anybody in Kenya. Parliament. So under that provision of the Constitution, we will summon governors if they go wayward. They must stick to the rule of law, and they must respect the laws that we have put in place as a House to govern this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Ichungwa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me also join the Honorable Junet Mohammed, Minority Leader, first in condemning that act by the county government of Nairobi. And two, to ask both the county government of Nairobi and the Kenya Power and Lighting Company to get into a negotiation or some sort of dialogue to be able to resolve the issues that are before them on issues touching on pending bills, Honorable Speaker. What we have seen around Stima Plaza, Honorable Speaker, is these are criminal acts. And indeed, I was asking myself last night as I watched on TV, where are the police that should be ensuring there is law and order everywhere in the country? The Inspector General of Police must take decisive action. And it must begin with the drivers who drove those trucks there. Because, Honorable Speaker, it should be very easy for the Inspector General of Police through DCI to extract information as to who were the drivers who dumped there. From the drivers to the people who instructed them. Whether it goes all the way up to the governor, it should not matter. Because we should not entertain criminality in the guise of attempting to collect your debts from public institutions, Honorable Speaker. What would happen today, Honorable Speaker? Our constituents, some of them are waiting for bursaries, others are waiting for grade 9 classrooms to be built through NG-CDF, and members of parliament are here asking for NG-CDF money. What if we decided that everybody now will take the law into their hands and do whatever you want, Honorable Speaker? Are we going to have a country? The City Council of Nairobi owes businessmen and women in this country money in pending bills to the tunes of hundreds of billions. What if the people who are owed by the City County of Nairobi also tomorrow decided to go and dump their garbage outside City Hall? How would the governor of Nairobi take that? Number two, Honorable Speaker, under the integrity, it's called the EACC Act, Ethics and Integrity Act. These are not just criminal acts, but acts that go against the Integrity and Ethics Act.
Acts under the NEMA Act.
Yes, criminal acts under the NEMA Act, criminal acts under the Ethics and Integrity Act, and also criminal acts touching on economic crimes, because you are dumping garbage deliberately on a road and sewer. You will expend public resources to dump and to later clean up. It is abuse of public funds.
Yes.
And therefore, Honorable Speaker, if we allow this kind of behavior to go on unchecked, these are the same governors, Honorable Speaker, who some time back were asking that they also be given some security officers under their command. You can imagine if these governors had policemen under their command, they would trample on everyone, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, mine is to ask the Inspector General of Police and ask him to make sure that action is taken against those people who dumped outside Steamer Plaza. I also want to encourage the business people who I have seen crying on national TV, that they have restaurants they have closed down because nobody can patronize their restaurants. They must take civil action against the City County of Government of Nairobi for compensation for lost business, Honorable Speaker. Because you are closing down people's businesses. I saw the Steamer Plaza. I also didn't know it's not even owned by KPLC. KPLC are tenants of Steamer Plaza. It is owned by pensioners. Our mothers and fathers who worked in KPLC and Kengen, as it were before, are the owners of that building. It is their business as landlords that is being spoiled by the county government of Nairobi. And Honorable Speaker, I do hope, and in fact, Honorable Speaker, I was wishing that you could even direct the Inspector General of Police, and because the chair of the Security Committee is here, you should direct the chair of the Security Committee to summon the Inspector General of Police and explain to the committee and to this House how can they be watching when criminality takes root unchecked and nobody is doing anything about it. All that people can be left to is crying on TV how their businesses have been locked down. KPLC employees are being paid a salary, but they can't go to work. Honorable Speaker, I would beg that you direct the Security Committee of this House to pick up that matter together with the Energy Committee, with the Inspector General of Police and the ministry concerned to make sure that there is an amicable solution to this problem. But more importantly for the Inspector General of Police to ensure that criminal charges are leveled against those who dumped outside Steamer Plaza. That is a behavior that we cannot condone. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Tongoyo, we shall not allow this country to be reduced to a Wild West behavior, where you disagree with somebody and you send goons and hooligans to go and sort out your mess. That is not Kenya. And you must stop it. So I direct you to summon the IG to find out why no action has been taken against this publicized criminal behavior by the city government of Nairobi. Yes, Dr. Nyikal. Hold on, Tongoyo.
Mr. Speaker, it's not only the police that we should ask. What was actually done is a public nuisance, and actually under the Public Health Act, the driver and their bosses who allowed that to open can be charged because they actually exposed people to garbage and soil, as you said, and that can easily cause an epidemic. We actually had a problem like that where some person actually were dumping things in the river, and eventually we had cholera in River Suo in Western Kenya. So it is not just a police issue, it is a major health issue, not only for the staff of Kenya Power and Lighting, but for all the people around. So I think that element should also be looked into. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Chief Whip. On the same issue?
Honorable Speaker, it is in line with what Dr. Nyikal has just said. This is actually what we've been saying, that we have created demigods in the name of governors, in the name of their excellence, Honorable Speaker. The cries of the business people around Steamer Plaza, Honorable Speaker, should not be left just like that. I saw on TV, Honorable Speaker, a lady who runs a restaurant just next to Steamer Plaza, who had no interest whatsoever to whatever happens between the county government and the Kenya Power and other business people around that area, Honorable Speaker, having it rough to even run their business, Honorable Speaker. There is even one cow, Honorable Speaker, that was towed by the county government, Honorable Speaker, that did not belong to the people, to any employee that works in the Steamer Plaza, Honorable Speaker. That is exactly what we are talking about in relation to everything that we've talked about as far as the county governments and the, the governors are concerned, Honorable Speaker. So I also join the majority leader and all the leaders that have spoken in saying that it's about time that we also invite those governors, perhaps in this house, or find a way to have these committees, Honorable Speaker, to investigate some of those actions. I know it's not within our mandate. We'll be acting ultra-violent.
It is within your mandate.
It is within our mandate.
Read the Constitution.
So that this committee, I'm well guided, Honorable Speaker. Article 95, I presume. And then have these relevant committees, not just the security committee, Honorable Speaker, even the committee that handles matters environment, Honorable Speaker, the committee that handles trade matters, because the business people are affected around that area. The governor and his team must face this house and explain what exactly they are trying to do and this childishness that we see. Because, Honorable Speaker, we see a lot of them, not just garbage. You see governors, Honorable Speaker, moving around with vehicles, about 30 vehicles. One vehicle carrying a carpet, another one carrying a toilet, another one carrying goons, another one carrying a chair, another one stand. Honorable Speaker, even a chair cover in barrios and disrupting things, people's places, and disrupting people all over, Honorable Speaker. You even saw in a funeral in Kakamega, Honorable Speaker, where there is war between a governor, a senator, and then a member of parliament, Honorable Speaker, because we've created demigods, Honorable Speaker. We also call upon the police to impound these trucks. The order by the governor to just release them, Honorable Speaker, that is playing PR. That is playing to the public gallery, playing politics, and playing clean. It shouldn't be that way. The vehicles that were parked outside, the vehicles that left the garbage in that particular place, Honorable Speaker, and the vehicles that blocked the way for 3 days should be impounded and the drivers arrested and charged, Honorable Speaker, for criminal offenses. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Tongoyo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Mazara.
Honorable Speaker, I'm well guided. We are going to have the IG summon and appear before the committee next week on Thursday.
There are criminal offences committed just under the nuisance law.
Yes.
Under the environmental law, under the Health Act, under the Penal Code, and several other acts of parliament. You can find up to 10 criminal acts committed with that act.
So actually, Honorable Speaker, I'm actually can't agree anymore. What actually surprises all of us here is that it should not have even reached this far without the IG taking action. And the question should be, Honorable Speaker, it should not have waited to this far. But having said that, and as you directed, Honorable Speaker, we are going to do exactly that. And I think it's an issue that should be severely punished because, Honorable Speaker, it begs a question. If this can do to an institution like KPLC, what should happen to his own political competitors? It will be actually wake every other morning. Ziwa has been actually dumb on your doorstep. So, Honorable Speaker, I join the rest of us to condemn that act, and we are going to do exactly as you directed. And possibly, Honorable Speaker, I think Honorable Dr. Nyikal put it, possibly, I think it also goes beyond the mandate only of security. Even NEMA should be they're probably pulled into this.
Honorable Millie, you remember, and you members of parliament must take this thing seriously. When we were going for a public rally in Jacaranda grounds, you remember Governor Songo then went and emptied raw sewage on the entire field and got away with it. This House must exercise its authority. Yes, Ocheng, what is it?
Speaker, you know, we allow governors and county governments to get away with too much. If there was a single time a governor should be impeached for gross misconduct, it is now. if the Senate was serious about their job, this is the time they should impeach a governor, not for corruption, not for stealing, but for gross misconduct on the face of it. There is no reason why the governor of Nairobi should continue being in office when his officers are telling us that they did what is said to have been done. The minister, the CEC for Finance, was on TV yesterday saying they did this knowingly. Why should the governor be still in the office, Mr. Speaker? Number two, Mr. Speaker, on this matter, and Dongo has spoken, the idea that National Assembly cannot summon governors is illegal. We've always known this. I think this assembly must start summoning governors where they go afoul of the law. We've allowed senators to be summoning ministers. We know it's wrong, but we've allowed them to do so. I believe, Mr. Speaker, that you must give a direction that committee chairs, committees concerned should henceforth start summoning governors where they go against the law. We should not shy from summoning them because of anything. There's nothing against the law when you summon governors to come here. And after, I think the day Don Devolution summons the IG, he must summon the governor also to come before that committee, so that these matters are handled in a manner that shows that this house has teeth and it will bite when it matters most.
Mr. Speaker, my issue is very related with the one we are discussing. These governors are becoming demigods. One, in Migori, you know there is a company called Sony Sugar. The governor of Migori has just decided to impound tractors carrying sugarcane to the factory because of some pending bills. Around 12 tractors now are in somewhere with the sugarcane in them. It shows that if we don't control these governors, they'll do anything they want and go away with it. So, Mr. Speaker, that was the burning issue that even back in Migori, the Sony Sugar are really suffering because the governor wants money from them, the cess money, which is in the pending bill, but if you don't pay, the tractors carrying sugarcane are being arrested. Do they call them arrested or compounded? And the sugarcanes are drying in those tractors simply because the Sony Sugar has not paid the levy for the county government of Migori.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, yes, Chepkonga.
Mr. Speaker, you know, you have allowed Honorable Tongoyo to call the Inspector of Police on Thursday. This is an extremely very important matter.
I have not allowed him, I've directed him.
No, he needs to be directed to call the inspector on Monday. This is a very urgent matter. We cannot allow a criminal matter to wait until next week.
Did he say next week?
He said Thursday. You should direct that they should call the inspector by Monday.
You are right. Yes, KJ, what is it?
Before the senior counsel leaves the floor, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to find out if it is in order for a member to direct the speaker. We know the discretion of the speaker is stipulated in our first standing order, Mr. Speaker. And while he has a very important point to raise, and we all have an issue to raise, even with the governor of Nairobi City County, for the activities and the actions that he undertook, which are an embarrassment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the lines of Kenya Power, we are carrying cables for the last mile connectivity. And our sector, the ICT and digital economy, is depending on Kenya Power to transmit this last line connectivity of fiber to the homes of Kenyans. It is one of the biggest pillars of the Kenya Kwanza government in the Kenya Digital Master Plan. So when you go and upset a fellow agency, which is a government agency, it is a gross action by a leader, Mr. Speaker. And so if it is for the IG to appear here, I do not think it is in the place. It is in the place of Honorable Chepkonga to guide you. I know, Mr. Speaker, under discretionary standing order number 1, you are wise enough to make a Solomonic decision on this issue. However, what was done by Governor Sakaja is gross misconduct, goes against the tenets of the Constitution, even on matters to do with leadership, Mr. Speaker. And I thank you for this opportunity. I just needed to know if Honorable Chepkonga is in order to direct the chair.
Tongoyo, you will summon the IG on Monday. Right? Honorable members, let's end there on that. I don't know if this school is still in the public gallery. St. Jacinta Secondary School from Marakwet West, Elgeyo Marakwet. Even if they have left, for the record, we welcome them to the House of Parliament. And they have left? Okay. Next order. As they call the next order, clerk hold, I've been requested by Honorable Murugara to stay order number 14 to next week. So I order that order number 14, when it's reached, will be stayed to next week. Call the next order, order number 11.
Order number 11, the Gold Processing Bill, National Assembly Bill number 46 of 2023, second reading, resumption of debate.
Fatma Zainab of Migori, she's not here. She forfeits the opportunity. She had 4 minutes to go. Martin Owino, are you here for the gold? Go ahead. Yes, Nabi, for the bill. I've given the floor to Martin Owino. You will speak thereafter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this bill. As it stands now, Mr. Speaker, the mining of gold in every part of the country is in a mess. But people are desperate and they are looking for how they can survive. They go into caves, these caves collapses, and many people are killed. Some are maimed and disabled because they are looking for gold. So when I look at this bill, I think it's going to bring order to the mining industry. Mr. Speaker, the bill seeks to establish the institutional and legal framework where these people who are struggling to mine gold can be put in order in terms of mining itself, collecting the gold, purification, smeltering, fabrication, and registration of the whole business. This is lacking right now. Like even in my constituency, there are small pockets of areas which are thought to have gold. And because of the desperation, people go into these areas and start mining. And sometimes, actually many times, you find this, when it rains, the holes collapses and people die. So I think in my submission, I want to thank the committee of all the observations and all the recommendations they have done to this bill, and the establishment of that regulatory framework that will put everything in order. Another time, so you find these people, when they have got the little cash they have from the mining, they also get blackmailed by people in between. In fact, if we don't come to the rescue, I hope this will be fast-tracked so that our people are not exploited as they struggle to mine the bill. So, Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I want to say this is a good bill, and I urge other members to support it. It will bring order and soundness to the industry, and I think out of that, the whole country will also gain in that order of business. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the bill. Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, parts of Kakamega have quite a bit of gold deposits. But Mr. Speaker, we've lost quite a number of productive people because the business has been done crudely, haphazardly, and by exploitative forces. In actual sense, Mr. Speaker, the community, the county government, and the country has lost not only people, but revenues. Mr. Speaker, some of the people have engaged our local people into mining as basically smugglers. And this bill would not have come at a better time other than this. And therefore I want to thank Honorable Shinali and the members of the committee for processing this bill to this House. Mr. Speaker, when we have mining of gold, and we know in this country, western part of Kenya, which has been discriminated in other development, I see this as a God-sent opportunity that no one can take away from us. That if we can realign, we can smoothen, we can have a legal framework to mine gold, then we are going to improve the lives of our people. We are going to improve the per capita income of the people in Lurambi in Kakamega, the people in Ikolomani in Kakamega, the people in Bondo and other parts of Siaya, the people in Migori and some parts of Homa Bay. This therefore provides a platform even for the ministry and the Department of Mining and Geology to go further and find other areas in Western Kenya that have deposits of gold. Mr. Speaker, I was really concerned 2 weeks ago in Shinyalu, where we lost 2 people and 18 others were injured because they were mining gold crudely. Mr. Speaker, I also want to bring to your notice an individual I know who has made billions of money from the mines in Ikolomani, but unfortunately for us, Mr. Speaker, the people who mine are paid meager earnings and the government does not earn any revenue. For this reason, Mr. Speaker, I support the bill.
Honorable Dick Maungu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity given that I may also add my voice on this important bill. Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I wish to really applaud my good brother, Honorable Ben Shinali, and the committee for having come up with such a progressive bill. Gold is an important resource. Mr. Speaker, Kenya is one of those few countries that God has blessed with this rare resource. And therefore, a law that comes in to kind of put order and protect the small miners is highly welcome, Mr. Speaker. My good friend, Brother Nabi, forgot to mention that apart from Kakamega, Vihiga, Luanda is one of those areas that have been identified as potentially full of gold deposits, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, this bill will not only go to protect other counties, Mr. Speaker, but my people in Luanda, a place known as Mwibona Ward, in Maloba in South, and other areas, Mr. Speaker, we have these gold deposits. But for a long time, Mr. Speaker, our young men have been abused and misused by the so-called cartels who've taken advantage of these young people for lack of legislation and some framework within which they can do their processing, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, this bill moves in to bring order and sanity, Mr. Speaker, as we shall give protection to these people who actually do mining at that low level, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as late as last Saturday, we buried one of our great men who died in the process of gold mining. And we have lost very many young men and men, Mr. Speaker, who every other day move into these mines trying to secure an economic venture out of the mines, Mr. Speaker. In the process, the mines collapse. Sometimes they are covered within, Mr. Speaker, never to be seen again. And this leaves young widows, leaves young children without parents, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, having this bill that will ensure the environment within which gold is mined is safe, Mr. Speaker, will go a long way in ensuring there's integrity, a long way, Mr. Speaker, in ensuring that the artisanal miners, Mr. Speaker, are equally enabled on how they can be trained, they can be facilitated, Mr. Speaker, so that brokers and cartels don't take over the industry. Therefore, I rise to support and say thank you to my good brother Shinali for a well-thought bill at a point in time. Thank you.
Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to take this opportunity to talk about this particular bill. I think said by your brother from the area, and I'm also from the neighborhood of the gold mine in Kakamega. And I think quite a number of things, Mr. Speaker, should be done, and be done very urgently. First and foremost, I think I was reading a paper some times back, and I was told, it's about 2-3 weeks ago, that Africa is still very good at natural resources. And they have yet to be exploited, they have yet to be, we don't even have any structure in doing the mining of some of these natural resources in Kenya. And this particular area, the gold mine, and I think those years when I was very young, and it was even in school, that actually it was the best in Africa. The only thing is that there's very poor infrastructure. Chair, and I think I've had some committees that actually are involved. And Mr. Speaker, the area is just, you know, anybody can walk in, even you and I can walk in there and say, okay, I want to do it, so long as you give some tips to the people who are around there, and those people can now go in there and do the mining. So there's very poor infrastructure. I want to take this, that the administrative unit of this country, with the leadership of the area, including my brother who has actually proposed this bill, should be able to sit down with the gold mining interests, those who have come from outside the country. I understand there are even Japanese there, Chinese there, to sit around and be able to organize the way this particular mining can be done. And I can tell you, it's just not going to offer jobs to our people. It's also going to earn us a lot of foreign exchange, because gold is one of the very precious metal in the world. And you can see even this speaker here, this, you look at it, is all but gold, very precious. And therefore, I think the best thing to do, and I want to ask my brother, should I be able, because we are depending on you as a leader in the area, do you organize yourselves and be able to have the administrative unit to be able to organize the whole place? Because it's very, very unfortunate. There are people who actually are looking for jobs and there are no jobs. And that's why the boys and girls that rushed there died, because all they are looking for is an income. And therefore, I think my suggestion is that we sit down and be able to organize ourselves so that apart from that particular mining, the other exploration, that's why the Europeans actually, you and I have read history, rushed to Africa, because Africa had all the natural resources. And I can tell you, even where we are now in Africa, in Nairobi, maybe there are gold mines, we can always get gold here, but we have to organize ourselves. And I think the biggest problem today is that we pass this bill, Mr. Speaker, let's get organized so they can be able to see what we can do on this particular bill and be able to assist the locals, because they are looking for income. And you can't blame them. So I want to say that much as we are mourning those young men who died, I can't blame them. They were rushing there because of the source of income. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to say we get ourselves organized. I think the Ministry of Mining, it should be taken there and be in charge of organizing the whole mining structure so that we don't have a repeat of this, for the benefit of this country and for the benefit of the people from Kakamega and the benefit of the people who actually are surrounded that place, including you and I. And therefore, I support this and ask the Member of Parliament to take leadership like you have done now, not because you saw people dying, but for the future of this country, so that you're on record to be able to assist our people and the ministry so can do proper mining of the area.
Mr. Speaker, I want to support this. Thank you.
The Honorable Samuel Atandi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to make my submissions on this bill. Honorable Speaker, I rise to say that the Gold Processing Bill 2023 has come to this floor of the House at the right time, and the bill is timely because of the issues the bill is seeking to correct. Honorable Speaker, when you hear about gold, you basically think gold basically is about money and wealth. But Honorable Speaker, when you go down to listen to the people involved in the mining of gold in the villages, Honorable Speaker, you would be surprised the kind of the nature of the workers that are working in those environments. Honorable Speaker, gold miners are some of the poorest workers in this country. And gold mining is not beneficial to the miners, principally because, one, Honorable Speaker, the returns that the miners receive from this work does not come. One of the reasons why the returns are not there is because of the existence of middlemen in the sector. One of the things which this bill is seeking to correct, the establishment of the Gold Processing Corporation, which is one of the most fundamental articles in this bill, is very, very important, Honorable Speaker, because this corporation is going to ensure that basically there's order in the way gold mining is done. It is seeking to create a board. It is seeking to create a board that is going to ensure that there's testing, there are standards, and also there's safety. Honorable Speaker, you are aware that in the recent past, in many parts of the country, we have lost a lot of Kenyans who are involved in this mining in the mining sector. This is because the safety measures that are supposed to guide the workers involved in this sector do not exist. And this corporation, Gold Mining Corporation, is going to help us to ensure that their safety measures are in place, and therefore there's going to be order. The other thing, Honorable Speaker, I spoke about the returns. Honorable Speaker, if a sector is not organized and properly regulated, then it goes therefore that even the workers in that sector will never be able to get proper returns. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, if you travel to places in Siaya, sections of many parts of Siaya County, my constituency specifically, you find that there are many segments of the constituency where miners are working daily. And, when you go into those places, Honorable Speaker, there are no equipments. The gold mining is a mechanical exercise. It's a manual exercise. So, Honorable Speaker, by this bill seeking to create this corporation, one of the things that they're seeking to do is to also seek to introduce technology and make this process seamless, commercialized, make it even bring equipment that are able to be used to mine gold in a way that even the environment is protected. Honorable Speaker, there are some parts of my constituency where gold miners are working. We had a situation where we got one of our roads, getting demolished because the way the miners go around, they are mining underground. Honorable Speaker, the mining starts here, but these people will go up to Nyayo Stadium on the ground. Now, in the process, you find that they've passed a place where there's a road, a tarmac road. The tarmac road is actually going down because of the mining activities. So I think part of the reason is because the technical capacity to guide where the minerals exist, the gold exists, is not there. So I think this bill is really, really important, and I want to ask members of this House to really pass this bill quickly, to allow this bill to be in action for the safety of the people involved in the mining sector, and also to ensure that people involved in the mining sector are getting returns. One of the things that this bill has not addressed is compensation for people who are donating their lands for mining. In my constituency, I'm having cases where, Honorable Speaker, there's conflict between landowners where gold deposits have been detected. When these gold deposits are detected in a particular area, then of course the miners, the people who want to mine come to sign agreements. These agreements are not tested. And in a short while, you find there's conflict. People are fighting, people are saying, I'm going to buttress the agreement we made. So I think one of the things that we need to do is to connect with this bill is to see how we can be able to resolve such cases of conflict for the benefit of the miners and the benefit of the country. Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I support.
The Honourable James Nyikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I arise to support this bill. Mr. Speaker, artisanal gold mining, which is the small scale where people go without experience, is rampant. It is actually all over the country, but mainly in Western Kenya. You find it in Kakamega County, Vihiga County, Kisumu County, Migori County, Siaya County, and even in West Pokot. But if you look at the West Kenya, it's actually probably a gold belt. If you look at it where it comes from Kakamega, Vihiga, in Kisumu County, in Seme, and it goes to Bondo, and it basically just goes across the lake into Migori. So we may be dealing with a geological gold belt that is actually being underutilized and underexploited. And therefore, we have to look at it. And Mr. Speaker, even the way it is done
Honourable
now.
Nyikal, I hope the mover of the bill is in the House and is listening to you.
Is here, and I really appreciate the work
when
he
you
has
see
done.
the move of the belt from Migori through Homa Bay, through the lake, through Nyamula in Uyoma,
yes,
the bit of Seme,
yes,
through to Ikolomani.
It is actually
which is the corrupted, I hear, Shinali people's name for gold mine, Ikolomani.
Yes.
Ikolomani. So if you look at it, there could be a belt we are talking about there.
So, Mr. Speaker, if that belt is there, it actually needs to be exploited so that we get it mined in a professional manner with all the issues that need to be looked at. It will actually generate employment and actually generate more wealth to the people themselves, and even to the government will then get taxes, and it will be. Currently, the process is actually destructive in most ways. What people are concerned about most is actually when the mines collapse, because these young people are working underground. They don't have the skills or even the resources to actually protect the mines as they go deep inside. Mr. Speaker, the other thing is it actually distracts children from education. So children actually abandon going to school to go and work in these mines. So it has a very dangerous effect. Mr. Speaker, when they go underneath the equipment they use, they actually go under there with generators. And actually, sometimes people die from just carbon monoxide poison, carbon poisoning, because of the smokes that come from the generators. These are all things that we really are not looking at. But it's not only that danger. The danger we all know about is the collapse. But the way they do it with their hands, open hands, when they are doing the spanning, there are a lot of health hazards. The chemicals that are used, mercury, is very poisonous, neurologically extremely poisonous. Arsenic is a slow killer. Arsenic can actually be used to poison people. And those are the things that are used. Lead that they use in gold mining is actually very toxic to the kidneys. And some of these people may actually gradually die slowly of kidney failure. Cyanide is an acute poisoning. But then the dust itself, the silica, the dust, when they go there under dust for a very long time, then of course they inhale the dust, and actually it is dangerous to the lungs. So maybe in their old age, under 40s and so on, you start seeing people dying of chronic lung disease, and which can even go into heart disease. And it may be difficult to actually relate it to the activities that they are going through. So this actually is it's a very dangerous thing. So, Mr. Speaker, I think not only that, some of these chemicals are actually carcinogenic. They are cancer-causing. And some of them actually have the effect of even affecting unborn babies. Mercury in particular is known for doing that. So the dangers are numerous. The returns are not that good because of the exploitation. These young people, it's men, women, they go into this. The outlet they have is actually controlled by middlemen, so that they actually are not even getting the money they should get. So, Mr. Speaker, I support this because if you look at the creation of this corporation with the board, and if you look at clause 6 of this bill, I think that is where the whole thing lies. If you look at the functions under clause 6, Mr. Speaker, everything we'll need to look at, the structures for doing it, the standards for mining, the materials for mining, the licensing for mining, and when they give the licenses, then of course we can look at the health hazards. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill, and we'll have to actually look at it in fair amount of detail, because it is not only going to protect the health of our people, improve their livelihood, but also generate more income for the country and taxes. So this is an extremely important bill, Mr. Speaker, I support.
The Honorable Joseph Oyula, the only MP who understands money best in Parliament.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me also add my voice to this bill. It's a very important bill because some of us in our areas, we have suffered greatly because of this gold mining. Let me add here, Mr. Speaker, that gold is also in Busia. That stretch from Kakamega crosses through Busia up to Uganda. In fact, right now, we have a fear because some Chinese are mining gold, and we suspect they have crossed the border into Kenya through that underground. So there is a big fear there at the border. The major problem, Mr. Speaker, here is we don't have any regulators. Anything gold is messy because both the young men who are used are never properly compensated. They are never protected well. They only go down there to follow the routes of how to get the gold, but come out, some die inside there because of some of the chemicals that they use. So, Honorable Speaker, it is important that this exercise is regulated. So this cooperation that has been mentioned in the bill, Mr. Speaker, will be very important. It should be given the teeth, because like in Busia, and particularly in my constituency, I had a lot of problems with those gold prospectors. If you ask them for any license, they don't have. Any permit, they don't have. They just tell you that we have authority from the above. Who is the above? So we now need to make sure that that authority can be seen. Representation at the counties should be made sure that we have the respective ministry having representatives at the county. Because without any regulation and without any representation, we have had a lot of problems. For instance, from our area, you go to Kakamega, where we hope that there is a representation in the ministry, yet there's nothing. So this bill, Honorable Speaker, is going to help us a lot. It's going to help people at the border, because this thing runs into Uganda, and from Uganda, they are going deep into the soils in Kenya. So we need to support this bill, Mr. Speaker, so that our people can be protected. The environment also, Mr. Speaker, when these people dig their ditches down there, they don't care what is left. Some have gone into school compounds. and they leave big trenches in the school compounds, which is very dangerous for the students. So we need such a regulation so that, and a corporation that can manage this for the country properly. So I stand to support this bill, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Honorable Dr. Naomi Wako.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. This is a very interesting debate and bill because of especially the areas that have some gold, like my county, whereby a place called Dabel, for the last 5 years, gold, miners have been there trying to get and also grow their wealth. Unfortunately, Honorable Speaker, like in my place, many people have lost their lives. So as a result of that, many have been widowed and orphans. The number of orphans have increased in my county simply because we do not have a bill on gold processing that can help. And that is why I want to say that I support and I am for this bill so that the poor people in different parts of this country who are trying to do mining, who are trying to create their own wealth, grow their wealth, and get rich, can be able to do that. Honorable Speaker, the idea of having license and having cooperatives in place that can manage this is one thing that is that we should all support, because currently, like in my place, people just go and they try to do what they can without any knowledge, without any license and other things. And even when they die, no one can be able to pay them back, and it is like they have no right. And maybe they were even there unlawfully. But if this bill will be passed, then whoever will be there will be under certain cooperation, whereby the corporation will be able to take care of individuals, those who are licensed, and the corporation can also be able to guide them on what to do. Honorable Speaker, under the corporation, part 2 of the bill says the headquarters of the corporation shall be in Nairobi. The corporation may establish offices in other counties, meaning that even if the headquarters will be in the city, the other branch offices can be in every county that maybe gold mining or gold processing is done. This will help us a lot because it will reduce the risk, and it will also protect the people who are involved in the business, so that even when anything or any unfortunate thing happens, they can be well protected. Honorable Speaker, again, under 11, you can see 2A, a person shall be qualified for appointment as chairperson or member under subsection 1G if the person is citizen of Kenya, holds degree, and also I think we just need to add that maybe if all the areas that have gold processing can be represented so that their interest can be well protected. Honorable Speaker, for the last many years, many Kenyans who have involved themselves in gold mining, gold processing, have suffered in the hands of the cartels, simply because there are those rich people who are somewhere and the miners are there. They try very much to dig the gold, harvest, and sell at a very cheap price. And yet there are these middlemen who are here paying money and collecting the entire thing and even selling at a higher price. Once we do this and this bill will be in place, then their interest will be very much protected. They'll be able also to earn from their hard work. Then the counties will also not be left. I'm sure some percentage will be given to the even beneficiary, local community around there, some 10-15%, so that they can be able to benefit. Honorable Speaker, this is a bill that needs to be done quickly, and the President needs to assent so that Kenyans can be able to benefit from this. And also, we know very well that all the areas that gold have been, spotted or seen, many people and the countries, different countries, have grown rich because of gold and the sale of gold and all these other things. And unfortunately, in Kenya, we have not put rules and regulations in place. We have not put laws that can guide us, can guide even the government in place, and that is why we need to do this, and I support this bill so that we debate on it, we finalize, and people will be given their license. They should also start their own corporations so that through the corporations, then all the individuals or the companies can benefit, and also see how this can be done in a way that the miners or the people who are involved will not suffer, because currently they suffer a lot because they use their hands to dig, they go down there, and that is why many times in our own place, many people have lost their lives because they are not protected, they don't know what to do, but they know that once they harvest enough gold, they'll be able to transform their lives. Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, I support this bill, and it is my prayer that many Kenyans' life will be transformed through this. Thank you.
Honorable Geoffrey Mulanya Wakili.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to speak about this gold processing bill 2023. Mr. Speaker, when you mention the word gold, in the minds of many Kenyans, it sounds that that's the gateway to riches. And that's why you will find that in many parts of where we are having these crude gold mining activities, we have scramble that leads sometimes to death. And perhaps it is very important that this particular bill is brought by a member representing a constituency that is a gold mine, the Honorable Shinali. We thank you for thinking it wise to bring, because you have more experience on what has happened to your constituents. And recently we saw actually what happened, that we lost we almost lost lives of good Kenyans in these particular gold mines. Mr. Speaker, as it was said by Honorable Nikal, who is a health expert, the underlying issues that go unnoticed. In most instances, we talk about miners trapped underground, but people forget to talk about the health hazards that go with this crude gold mining. It is a requirement under the law that any person in a construction work must put on protective gear. However, without regulations, we have these crude gold miners, they go underground without any protection whatsoever. And at the end, as much as they come out of the gold mines alive, they pick up some chronic diseases that will affect them, and slowly they'll die from their homes. And Mr. Speaker, we have followed from the western region, areas where this prospective gold mining or crude gold mining is being undertaken. And in particular, Mr. Honorable Yula has mentioned that in Busia we have a crude gold mining activity in an area called Bumutiru, which is in the Butla constituency, that neighbors Nambale constituency. And what we have experienced, we find that many people abandon their farm work. They abandon their families. They go to prospect on gold mining, and in the end, they come back empty-handed. They waste valuable time that they will be working on their farms so that they can support their family. What they come back with is something that cannot support even to feed their family for a week. That particular time, if it was to be put to proper use by working on their farm, perhaps it could be meaningful. And for that reason, I support the proposal to have the gold mining corporation so that this corporation can put order to this particular sector. Let's have a proper geological study to confirm that the prospects of gold in that particular area is worth the mining, and also the regulations that any person to undertake this mining must, first of all, follow the safety precautions that are required for any construction site. Mr. Speaker, we also know that our government is losing revenue. This is a hard time that we don't have enough revenue in this country to support even NG-CDF. We don't have money because of the hard economic times. But when we have resources like gold that is being smuggled, the government is not benefiting. The local government is also not benefiting. The land is being degraded because when they dig tunnels underground, the land becomes weaker. The soil topography is also interfered with. So there are so many things that are lined up so that we need to control. And as a house, this is the most important time that we put this in control, because where there are no regulation, there's disorder. And indeed, there's a lot of disorder in gold mining in this country that is leading to death, leading to poverty, which we as legislators, we are under duty to control. And I thank the Honorable Shinali for, and the committee for bringing up this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support the bill.
Honorable Peter Francis Masara, you want to speak to this?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Of course, you know, my name is Masara, and Masara area has a lot of gold. So that's the reason why I have to add my voice on what has been said by other members. Mr. Speaker, this bill is very important. This bill will enable the artisan miners to get what is rightfully theirs. Mr. Speaker, currently as we speak, those miners, this area is unregulated. There are so many cartels. There are so many people who purport to have licenses, and they are actually doing things which are not in law. We have Chinese, especially in Migori, the Masara area, Osiri area, in Kuria, in Rongo, where gold is found. You'll get so many people doing so many cartels, actually undermining the work of our real people who are really suffering and working hard so that they can earn a living. Mr. Speaker, the importance of this bill, as per what I've read, if you look at clause 42, clause 42 of the bill talks of an application for the renewal of processing license shall contain the information or accompanied by the following document, Mr. Speaker. The proposed program for processing operation to be carried out during the term of renewal. 2, a plan of the area in respect on which renewal of this processing license is sought. And 3, an approved environmental impact assessment license, social heritage assessment, environmental management plan in respect of the applicant's proposal where required under this law. Mr. Speaker, currently, you get even in school, like in my area, there's a school called Arombe. People are doing mining within the school because that land belongs to somebody. There's no regulation. You get areas where people are taking water, natural water. People doing processing there, and the chemical used are affecting the community, but there's no regulator. Mr. Speaker, with this bill coming into an act, I believe the people involved in mining are going to appreciate us as legislators. Mr. Speaker, if you go to clause 48, clause 48 But actually, I want to be very specific about the laboratories. Currently, that is clause 48(1)(d). Mr. Speaker, in my area, the laboratory which is being used majorly by the people doing mining is in Tanzania. So it means we are losing a lot of revenue to the Tanzanian government because people leave Migori, they go to Tanzania to take the sampling, and even the people involved are not professional, Mr. Speaker. There are people who have done this mining for a long time and they have the experience. So they come, they check the land, they do blah, blah, they talk what, and then they continue exploiting our people. Mr. Speaker, being this bill is proposing that there will be headquarters in Nairobi, but there are other offices at the county level. It means the people involved in mining, the artisan miners, will get opportunity to interact with professionals from the corporation. Mr. Speaker, by and large, as you have mentioned, gold is being done in Kenya. But in terms of revenue it's generating, currently nobody knows. Because even the issue of transporting it, the issue of standardization of the gold in Kenya today is still a mirage. So with this bill in place, I believe so many gaps are going to be filled. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, without taking much of your time, I want to say that I support the bill and congratulate my colleague for bringing this bill into the August House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Florence Yamatia.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I also want to add my voice to this bill and congratulate my friend and colleague, Shinali, Honorable, for such a good thought. I see the bill was brought, I mean, these are 2023 bill, so it means it is a good time for us to look into it. Mr. Speaker, if you ask me, I think apart from doing this bill, we also need to put into consideration most of the other natural resources that we have in this country. In where I come from, I think we have very sporadic areas of gold that has not been fully utilized and harnessed properly. But we have other minerals. We have rupees, we have other small pockets of, sometimes we are told there's oil here and there because of the nature of our environment. It's a desert area. But gold, in many ways, is considered to be one of the owners of production. I mean, wealth, depending on who discovered gold first. So we realize that even as we do this, we should also consider other minerals so that we have a bill that is packaged together that helps protect all types of minerals we have in this country. Recently, we discovered cobalt in eastern Kenya, I think Meru area and Embu. And as even we look forward, I think we need to do more to make sure we are protecting this, because this is an act of parliament that is, we will be working hand in hand with the mining act that is already in place. And as we do that, I would probably ask the committee, use a committee to help us do another, bring all the minerals so that we can do this thing and lock it properly for our safety and future. Mr. Speaker, growing up, we used to be told sometimes it is not good to touch what God has given you and use it as a reservoir in the future. Many times when you look at these countries that have exploited minerals, it has acted as a curse or, it has brought problems. And many times it is not about the people who are actually mining and doing all this. It is the people who are beneficiaries, the cartels, the international groups that they come and bite in exploiting people. And this bill is going to help us to curb that problem. And if you look at the bill speaks for itself, that it is going to establish for the establishment and composition, functions, and management of gold processing corporation and also provide for the application, cancellation, and renewal of gold processing license, and for also connecting purposes. This is going to be a very good link from the people who are mining and the communities there in terms of royalties. How many royalties should be going to the community? And this cooperation is going to be a good link for government and international. But if you look at it keenly again, Mr. Speaker, you realize this is also act as a framework, which is going to give the framework. And as it does that, it can also regulate and act as a beneficiary at the same time. If you look at clause on part of gold processing corporation, the corporation act as number 8. Functions of the corporation shall be to collect, sample, purify, smelt, fabricate, homogenize, make it homogeneous, sample, register, refine, monitor, and transport gold or gold products. And at the same time, it says it is to facilitate international accreditation. So you cannot be almost like a beneficiary and regulator at the same time. I think that is, in my opinion, the bill should also come out very clearly, whether this is a company, because if it says it's going to be helping to transport and monitor all those kind of, act as a regulator, and it also act as a company because it also wants to sell, help you sell. So again, it should come out very clearly that how many gold sites do we have specifically in Kenya, so that even if I am an international buyer, through the corporation, I should be directed to the sites that I want, the quantity that I want, and all that. As much as I have not gone through the bill all full, I have cited that there are areas that, as a regulator, you should also bring out in circumstances where the miners, specifically the people who are in the locality, are affected with the side effects of exposure of these minerals. What happens from there? Is the corporation going to be liable? Is it going to take care? Is it going to build and take care of these people through insurance and help them? For instance, if people die today in the gold mining sites, are they going to be given compensation through the corporation? All those things, I think, should come out very clear. But generally, if you ask me as a leader, we need to have a proper consortium on all the minerals. The government of today should be able to do proper ground truthing. Tell us how many minerals can we find in Kenya, so that going in the future we should be not just waking up in the morning and mining everywhere. We should be able to say we are mining along Western this time to give a room for these other areas, because mining, once you mine, you might not get it. It's not something that it is regenerating itself. It is wealth that once you touch it, you're most likely going to, exploit it more, and it's going to deplete. So what happens? Suppose we depleted all the minerals, like gold here, as much as we are putting in this process. What happens in the future? So we need to have it, because we should probably, through the corporation, we need to have our reservoirs. We don't have to sell all the gold. We can also put it as our banks. In the banks to act as in the future, the dollar might not be there. We can also trade using it as one of a backup of survival in the future. We never know what happens at the dynamism of the world today. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I support, and probably if given opportunity, we can do proper amendments and make it clear to the people who are going to consume. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The MP for Kitui Rural, the Honorable David Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving this opportunity to also support the bill. Mr. Speaker, I think this bill is very important. because gold mining, and most of the mining in this country, have been done in Juakali way, or informally. And the bill establishing is trying to establish of a gold processing corporation, and also contains provision for relating to application of licenses to to mine and process gold. Mr. Speaker, many of the miners who are mining these golds, they are actually poorly earn from the process of mining due to middle people. Because when they mine, most of them, they may not even know what kind of gold in terms of quality. And there are so many middlemen in this sector. Mr. Speaker, many times you hear people have been conned, people have been sold gold. And at the end of the day, you realize it's not even gold. I remember one time my uncle was sold gold. But when he went to the house, he found it was salt. So a lot of people have also lost a lot of money because of these kind of activities. The miners suffer from diseases, especially chest diseases, and of course they cannot pay for their medical bills because of the poor earning they are earning. So if the bill is going to establish a society to help them negotiate and fight for their rights, I think this bill is a very important one, because they are going to earn what they deserve. But Mr. Speaker, following what other members have said, all minerals in this country should be processed in the country. I remember, for example, gold is sold in raw form. Anybody who knows titanium, which is being mined in Kilifi, no, not Kilifi, in Kwale, the titanium, the person or the company which is mining titanium is collecting all the titanium and taking it to processing somewhere in China. And you know, titanium is a very valuable mineral, because it's used in making watches, which we hear. It's also used in making some parts of aircrafts. And these are very valuable products. So if we are processing the minerals here ourselves, one, we are going to create jobs. Two, we are going to get income. Three, we are going to have economic growth in the country. So as we embark on this bill, we also need to think about processing other products, other minerals in this country, so that Kenyans can earn what is due to us. Mr. Speaker, government should also embark on mining other minerals. Kitui County is the third potentially rich county in this country, because we have limestone, plenty of it, we have iron ore, we have coal, and we have copper. The coal we have in Kitui can light this country for 30 years without using anything else. Can you imagine coal lighting this country for 30 years? How fast we can grow. When you have coal and you have iron ore, then you can start steel industry. So as much as we are saying that we don't have the country is poor, but we are also not looking at the areas, at the sectors of mining, where this country has a lot of minerals. The oil in Turkana, I don't know what happened. We were meant to know that there was a lot of oil in Turkana. Maybe somebody may be in a position to tell us what happened. So, Speaker, this bill is very important, and we need to support it. But of course, we also need to think about other minerals. Thank you very much. I support.
The Honorable Geoffrey Rocco.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to give some contribution as far as the bill on the gold processing is concerned. Mr. Speaker, mining sector in the Republic of Kenya is one of very underperforming sector. A sector which can go a long way in creating jobs, in raising the revenue of this country, and also providing the foreign exchange which we seriously need as a nation. Mr. Speaker, not only the gold, we have other many minerals which we need to put more investment and come up with proper regulations or laws to regulate all these minerals we have in the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, the establishment, as far as this bill is concerned, the establishment of the corporation which will be dealing with the issues to do with gold processing is one of the very critical factor which is necessary because at the moment it is true we have gold miners in the Republic of Kenya. We have people who are doing business in this republic as far as gold is concerned. And always there is a lot of conning, a lot of scamming in gold business. Therefore, Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Mutuse. Honorable Mutuse.
Yes.
Honorable Mutuse was this side, eh? Okay. I thought you wanted to cross directly, so if you intend to cross, you have to do the right thing.
Mr. Speaker, I was saying the establishment of the corporation to regulate the gold business, the gold processing, is very important. Because as you know, gold business is an international trade, and the international standards should be facilitated in the most appropriate way. Licenses, appropriate licenses should be given and verified. Verification of some of these licenses are critical. You will find that there are areas in Africa where gold is plenty, but the consequences are dire in terms of that gold can be war gold or black gold. Many people may have lost their lives in the process of mining gold, and selling it may be facilitating that kind of trade for war and even armed dealings. Mr. Speaker, having a corporation which puts in place rules and regulations, how to acquire licenses, how to ensure international accreditation is well facilitated, how the tests are done, how the grading is done, the purification and smelting of gold, the refining of gold, and even the transportation is one of a very critical institution which will ensure that even we have more investors in this trade in the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I listened to the former Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya mentioning or saying that President William Ruto is in business of gold with one of the leaders in Sudan. That is a reckless statement, an extremely reckless statement coming from the former impeached Deputy President. And now that we are discussing about a gold bill, it is important maybe to mention that this is an international trade with credible buyers or sellers or traders, and it is high time for the Republic now, through the National Assembly,
to ensure we have a properly regulated business conducted. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill. I support this bill. It is well crafted, but also we will need to look at other minerals. We have mica, we have coltan in Bere, we have mica in Bere, Mr. Speaker. We have aquamarines in Bere. We have many other, we have bismuth in Bere. We have many other, we have even iron and copper in Bere. And I think if we can come up, or if this National Assembly can come up with a law regulating all these minerals so that we can take advantage as a nation as far as our minerals of the Republic of Kenya are concerned, I think we can be even in a position to repay some of these debts which are killing the economy of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you.
The Honorable John Waluke.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me also a chance to contribute to this very important bill. The cold processing bill, which is very important, Honorable Speaker, to this country. If our government can seriously take measures to make sure that this bill has succeeded. I urge the House, Honorable Speaker, to pass this bill. Honorable Speaker, I've raised to support this bill because the MP, and also thank the MP for Ikolomani, Honorable Shinali, for bringing it up. It is due on time, Honorable Speaker, because our country needs to grow economically. This bill can grow the economy of this country, Honorable Speaker, and I'm happy always to say, I'm a proud Kenyan, to say that our country has a lot of minerals, natural minerals like oil. Honorable Speaker, I used to be in the military myself, and we used to keep peace for the visitors who came to do survey for oil in this country, Honorable Speaker. Those days, and there are so many areas that were discovered that has oil, like Bokot, like Marsabit, like Baringo, like Moyale, like even in the ocean, Honorable Speaker. And sometimes because of maybe lack of enough security, because when you drill oil, we are lucky that the oil from Arab countries, Honorable Speaker, if we drill enough oil, they will also have a problem to have oil in their area because we are in the lower side. Honorable Speaker, I keep on asking myself many times that there are cartels in this country, Honorable Speaker, who buys gold from our miners. And Honorable Speaker, I keep on asking myself that who is the cartel? Who is the cartel? Who buys this gold that the miners in this country always struggle to get? Some, even the miners die in those mining holes. Where does this gold get sold to? Honorable Speaker, because this country could be rich. Those days it used to be this Indian who used to buy gold at that time, Honorable Speaker, but he moved from this country to Nigeria. Honorable Speaker, the country should be serious and control, regulate the licenses of those who wants to get license for the mining of such an important mineral like gold and other minerals, Honorable Speaker. Because Patin, that time it was Patin who used to buy. But these days we don't know who buys it. And that is the question I keep on asking myself, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there are people who get license behind the government knowing, and the government should be very strict, Honorable Speaker, because I witnessed this with Chinese when Honorable Shinali called us to witness when they were commissioning the company that is going to do this. I attended, I saw some machines, and I was very happy that this gold is going to help us as a country. Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, I support this bill. Thank you.
Honorable Stephen Mogaka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to also contribute. And I want to thank the sponsor of this bill for bringing a bill that is going to help regulate a hitherto unregulated industry. We know, Mr. Speaker, that gold mining in this country has been done majorly by individual experts who know how to identify gold, but the beneficiaries are always people who are not directly involved in the search, mining, identification, and production of this gold. We also know, Mr. Speaker, that the gold miners in this country, whether in Kakamega, Makalda, or everywhere, these are volunteers who, by inheritance or by reason of being proximate to the gold mines, have sacrificed and put their lives on the line to go into those underground tunnels to try and get gold. This bill, as much as I support it, requires serious amendment to make provision for the very people who put their life in danger and sink into the below the surface in hunt for gold. Mr. Speaker, if this bill has to be passed by this Parliament, I want to see amendments made to create capacity building for these traditional miners to be trained and be equipped with guns that can be able to identify the gold when they are down there, rather than going on a wild goose chase and bringing stones which in their mind or their view or their eyes appear like gold, and when they bring them to the market, they get conned. Even if it is gold, they are told it is not gold, and they are shortchanged and do not get value for their risk and for their value. Mr. Speaker, this bill, when I look at its citation, and it tells us that it seeks to establish a gold processing corporation and provide for the application and licensing of those actors in the gold industry. It is a noble thing. You will recall, Mr. Speaker, that this country has been treated to scandals about gold. Many a times, people have been associated with stones which are described as gold, and whenever they get to the true gold market, they turn out to be either not gold or they get shortchanged. This bill is going to help Kenyans who are involved in trading in gold to be clear in their mind on how to operate and who will be the licensed dealers in this gold, so that Kenyans do not get shortchanged and lose their efforts and investment in the search for gold. Mr. Speaker, gold is the most valuable mineral that we have. And as much as we are today processing this bill that deals with the mineral called gold, we have several other minerals in this republic that benefit this country and even abroad that need also regulation. And I think I will be making an initiative to promote bills that are going to deal with the traditional minerals, including clay, which is a major input for manufacturing bricks. Minerals like, in my mother tongue, we call it likoro, which produces gravel that gravels most of our roads. And many a times, the owners or the producers of these minerals, like clay, like the gravel, do not get value for their money. It is time that the 13th Parliament legislated to protect the owners of the clay that manufactures bricks and other valuable construction material, the owners of gravel that helps gravel most of our roads, and to make sure that these locals also get to benefit. Mr. Speaker, I want to emphasize on capacity building, because we have certain areas designated as gold mines. I don't know for what reason. Unless we capacitate our people to be able to identify gold or to identify various other minerals which may be lying unidentified and discovered in this republic, and which, if exploited, would expand our GDP, then we will not be putting this country on a competitive platform in the international market. Because gold is traded in the international market, it helps create our national reserves, particularly in the banking sector, and it is important that other minerals that help manufacture cement, that help manufacture steel, all these minerals need to be mainstreamed, and it is up to this legislature to come up with bills such as the gold bill that we are dealing with today, to make sure that every particular mineral in this republic is covered by legislation that ensures that not only the owners or the people who originate from that mineral deposit get value for their money, but the Republic of Kenya gets value for money. And with those remarks, Mr. Speaker, and on behalf of the people of West Mogrango constituency, to whom I'm indebted, I support this particular bill. Thank you for the permission to speak.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Education and Research, the Honorable Julius Meli.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand to support this bill and thank Honorable Washali, who has seen it right that the gold processing sector or the gold sector in this country be regulated, be organized, and be further developed. This bill, Honorable Speaker, is long overdue. I do remember one time that the government did a resource mapping known as the Natural Resource Information Mapping System in 2016. During that time, it was found out that this country has huge deposits of several kinds of minerals. And the minerals we have has been enumerated by my colleagues, from iron ore, coal, oil deposits, rare earth metals, and all these other kinds of minerals. Honorable Speaker, you need to note that this bill is trying to address gold processing in this country, which has not been addressed for quite some time. The issue, Mr. Speaker, is that all the minerals in our country, and I think this is an area which the Minister of Mining and this House need to look into. We've concentrated so much on agricultural production. We've concentrated so much in livestock, tea production, coffee, and all manner of commodity production. Honorable Speaker, if you look at this bill, it goes down to establish the Gold Processing Corporation. And in this bill, it seeks to look at the establishment of the corporation, the functions of the corporation, the functions of the board, the management, and also the legal and institutional framework for collecting, purifying, and smelting gold. I want to say that I come from a constituency where there is a lot of gold, Honorable Speaker and members. However, the processing, the licensing, the management of the gold, and the issuance of licenses has been very sporadic, at times at the whims of the Inspector of Mines, and at times even the prospector himself can allocate himself and start mining. In fact, even the declaration of how much gold you have harvested is at the whims of the processor. By having this particular bill here, Mr. Speaker, is actually to regulate the sector, and it is going to give this country more foreign earnings than any other sector in the country. Most of this, the legal framework that we are developing here will actually go ahead to really make the gold processing, the gold sector, be a real earner for our country. Look at the smelting, the fabrication, the homogenizing, sampling, registering, and monitoring, and even transportation of gold products and related products. At times, this country has been accused of being as a hub for gold syndicate. And in fact, this has happened because even young Kenyans, and even Kenyans themselves, even the leaders in this country, do not know the kind of gold products, the quantity, the quality of the gold product, and even how to handle fraudsters. Honorable Speaker, in clauses 5 to 23, the bill sets to establish the Gold Processing Corporation, establishes the board, the functions of the board. It goes on to actually indicate the headquarters of the corporation, and in effect also come up with the chief executive of the corporation, who is going to be a director general. In that particular case, it will ensure that there is a board that is going to be responsible for all the gold processing and even the gold products in this particular part of the world, and even set standards, and even be able to have staff, experts. In fact, It has been known that most of the gold processing in this country, like in Tinderet and even Migori, and even in Ikolomani, where my colleague comes from, are very rudimentary, very basic, in a sense that locals move to the river basins with their rudimentary implements. Some even dig very unsafe, very unsafe mines. And at times the mines collapses and kills a number of them. It is time now we regulate this and set standards. Whom do we license to actually procure and process gold? It should be somebody who has enough money, good machinery, and have expertise to ensure that the safety and lives of the miners are put in place. It is through this bill also we need to look into, and I think I will be proposing within this bill, the insurance companies. If you go to Migori, where I have been, gold mining is on the roadsides. It creates huge gullies. When they are mining, there are a lot of chemicals used, like cyanide, very dangerous for animals, very dangerous for human beings. The environmental impact assessment needs to be done before this particular, some companies set. And some of these minerals or the chemicals they use are very expensive, Mr. Speaker, are very poisonous, Mr. Speaker. Other issues that I want to bring into the attention of this is that in clauses 24 to 27, Mr. Speaker, the bill tries to provide for the financial provisions of the board. And this one is very important because as much as we are setting this board, and I want us to really look at it going forward in setting other boards, it should be a board that is not coming out to seek for funds from the exchequer every other time. It should be a board that uses its own levies, its own way of collecting revenue and developing itself. And we need to learn this from other big mining corporations like the De Beers in South Africa, the big gold trading companies of the world, where they don't depend on a national exchequer. And in itself, it is able to run, it is able to pay salaries, it is able to run its affairs and do operations without having the dependency on the national treasury to run its operations. Honorable Speaker, I want also to say that in clauses 28 to 42, the bill provides for the applications of the license, restriction in respect to processing, and consideration of applications. Honorable Speaker, I just said in my introductory remarks, but prospectors in this country, if you go to areas, several areas of this country, foreigners have just walked in at times, colluded with some people in the provincial administration, set up illegal mining, and robbed this country of a lot of wealth. The rare earth metals maybe in Garissa, some in Taita Taveta, in many parts of this country. This is the time to really make sure that any form of prospecting, any form of licensing, any form of trying to establish a mineral processing plant, it has to be very clear on how you are establishing them, how you are running them, how you are making sure that we have a benefit for our country. Honorable Speaker, I also say that in the other issues on record keeping and even declaring the results, in the Mining Act, Mr. Speaker, most of the time declaration of the proceeds has been left to the processor. The processor can under-declare and at times at the expense of the resources of this country. So I want to say that I shall be proposing a number of amendments to this bill, and on those particular areas, I want us to say this, that this bill is very important. This bill is going to really assist us to run the gold processing. But in the same breath, Honorable Speaker, we need to develop other bills that processes or even gives establishment, functions, or running of other minerals, even oil and others. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I support.
The Honorable George Gitonga Murugara.
died. Have it now.
We use the next mic.
The next one. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this bill by the Honorable Bernard Masaka Shinali, the Member of Parliament for Ikolomani. It is actually the gold processing bill, which has a very close association with Ikolomani, the gold mines of Western Kenya, which started in the 30s, to the best of my knowledge, but have also remained rudimentary, even up to today, because we do not have any clear law that guides processing of gold in the country. We know very well that what takes place is actually prospectors, most of whom are illegal, going all over the place and trying to use crude means to try and find gold, which they can process and which they can possibly smuggle out of the country to sell where the business is lucrative. It is the high time that we actually declared the Mining Act not sufficient to cater for gold mining, and that we actually have a standalone Act of Parliament which will guide us on how to process gold, which is found in various parts of the country, including Taita Taveta, areas in Nyanza, and some areas in eastern Kenya. There are traces of gold, which traces sometimes may be processed to become profitable. So this is an act of parliament which, if passed, will see prospectors or spectators coming over, even to my constituency of Tharaka, and who knows, we may be lucky to find gold in those seasonal rivers which transcend that constituency, traverse the constituency, in the same style as happened in the 19th century in South Africa, where these prospectors, while on transit looking for gold, came across what is known as the Sand River. And the Sand River is known to have lots of gold in form of pellets, which actually run with the sand in that river. As a result of which, we have had great development in Johannesburg and everywhere else regarding gold. So this is an act of parliament which I would urge my contemporaries, my colleagues here, to pass so that we are able to start regulating gold. We know very well that the issue of gold is a motive. We have had people trying their luck with the gold everywhere. Sometimes it doesn't yield anything, and other times we are told they lose a lot of money, purely because we do not have a clear law that guides us on the processing of gold in the country. Therefore, today, as we debate this bill, we actually look at the provisions it has, and after the preliminaries, we move to the real sections or clauses that establish the Gold Processing Corporation. Runs from clause number 6 all the way to clause number 20, clause number 24. This is very important because we begin by establishing an entity, a legal entity, known as the Gold Processing Corporation, which will be a corporate entity with its own seal, capable of suing and being sued, and doing all other things that appertain to corporates, including borrowing money and lending money if that becomes possible. But let's look at clause 8. Now, clause 7, which says the headquarters of the corporation shall be in Nairobi. Good enough, although we should have made a provision that the corporation will have offices possibly or minimum in the counties, so that every county has an office where we can start at looking at prospects of mining and processing gold. The functions of the corporation are set out in clause number 8, and these are very elaborate on what the corporation can do including it will actually collect, sample, purify, smelt, fabricate, and do all other things that appertain to gold mining and processing. All the way from clause A to clause J, it is functions of the corporation. And from there we find that the corporation will actually be run by a board. And this is provided for in clause 11. And the board will have a chairperson appointed by the president and other members, some of whom are supposed to be experts in gold mining, exploration, smelting, and processing. The functions of the board are given, the qualifications of the persons to sit in the board. This is very important, although we shall be looking at this with a tooth comb as we go to the committee of the whole house for the third reading of this bill to see whether there are any areas which we need to make better than they are today. Then from there, we have the financial provisions relating to monies of the board and the corporation, which monies it can either get from this house, and we will be urging the house to make allocations to the corporation and the board. It can also borrow, it can also obtain the money from grants and any other forms of revenue raising that will be applicable to it. Let's go to clause 29, which deals with the processing license. Again, this is very important because we have said previously what happens in this country is that everybody becomes a gold miner, a speculator, and you just go on, and if you're lucky to get any quantity, then you can sell either to the third parties who are brokers, or you are able to smuggle it out of the country where you can get better prices. This time now you need to be licensed. We don't have to see everybody walking all over trying to entice innocent persons into speculating for gold, and where it is discovered, he does not disclose what it is, but he takes it away. Then once a license is issued, it has to be used in accordance with the provisions of this act, and anybody who contravenes provisions of that license commits an offense and is liable to punishment. Then towards the end of it, we have made a provision for regulations. Again, extremely important that we actually make regulations which will guide us on how to process and deal with gold. It's always important to remind the House that regulations are actually the flesh in any law. An act of parliament is going to be the bones, while the flesh are the regulations, and these are very important, especially when they are supposed to be subjected to public participation, so that Kenyans are able to know that on top of having the Gold Processing Act in place, we will now have regulations made thereunder by the Cabinet Secretary, but with the approval of this House. Then as we conclude, we have the penalties in respect of any person who commits an offense. We will be looking at this penalty because it only provides for breaches of the license and making false information or information that is not true to the board. I think we need to expand the areas to be punished so that whoever contravenes any provision of this particular act is guilty of an offense and would be on a conviction liable to a certain fine or some term of prison in default or to both. Important as we conclude is we are making amendments to the Mining Act because we are governed by Mining Act when it comes to speculation. It's a very weak act of parliament. This is the reason why people move out there, exploit the loopholes, and they are able to get away with our minerals at poultry prices. So we repeal that and exempt gold such that gold will now be regulated by this particular act of parliament. It's a very important act of parliament, and therefore I urge my colleagues to pass this. We will look at it. If there is need to amend, we will effect the amendments at the committee of the whole house. I beg to support.
Honorable Mary Emasi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute to this very important bill. Honorable Speaker, regulations are very important and crucial to the administration of mining activities in any nation. Honorable Speaker, this bill comes in to solve some of the challenges in the mining sector, not just gold, but generally mining at large. There are numerous reported and unreported cases of gold being smuggled in and outside of this country, of illegal dealings in both extraction, sale, transportation, and therefore this must be addressed. And therefore I want to thank my colleague, Honorable Shinali, for bringing forth this bill. And from the onset, I want to say that I support. Honorable Speaker, my contribution goes to part 2 of the bill. I think that is the most important part of this bill, because that's the part that is going to bring order in this sector. The formation of a corporation to be known as the Gold Processing Corporation and its functions. Honorable Speaker, the corporation is given roles by this bill to be able to collect, sample, purify, smell, fabricate, homogenize, sample, register, refine, monitor, and transport gold and gold products. In fact, among the challenges in the mining sector, one of the major challenges has been infrastructure deficiencies, lack of proper roads, that has made even that transport, and lack of transportation, structured transportation systems, which has made even the cost of transporting it more costly. So this, I believe this bill will put some order in the trading of gold, in both the prospecting and trading and all that. Also, this bill, among other functions, seeks to ensure that there is compliance of national standards with international standards. It also seeks to facilitate international accreditation, registration and licensing, among other functions. So for me, this is very critical and this is very important. And also when I look at the other, that is, should be clause 11, the formation of the board or the establishment of the board. Honorable Speaker, I'm very happy that there's a chairperson to be appointed by the president. There's the principal secretary responsible for mining, PS responsible for national treasury, PS responsible for lands, PS responsible for environment, among others. And I want to speak about that environment, because environmental impact is very, very, very important. As I speak to you, Honorable Speaker, and I'll be consulting with the owner of the bill on how we can introduce a clause to protect Kenyans, residents of this country that reside along the borders, from environmental impact that is occasioned by mining at the border in neighboring countries. As I speak to you, Honorable Speaker, the people of Teso South at Alupe area are living in fear that one day they might wake up and find themselves buried underground. They have sunk because there is mining right at the border. The soil excavated from the mining has closed up our river that is separating the two countries. It has actually changed direction and changed the boundary. Our houses are cracking, air pollution, increase in respiratory diseases. So we must have a law that encourages cooperation, collaboration between the two countries, so that the aspect of environmental impact, because it is changing livelihoods and it's raising concerns. So as we pass this law to guide us and help in mining of gold, we must look at it, we must look further and see, irrespective of where the mining is being done, How is it affecting the population, the humans around where the mining is happening? And also, how are those that are injured compensated or are killed during the process of mining? So, Honorable Speaker, this is a good bill. I support it, but like I said, we need to look further and see how to make mining safe for all human beings around where the mining is being undertaken. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
You, the Honorable Jane Kagiri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this bill. Honorable Speaker, I stand to support the gold processing bill and in the spirit of supporting the Gold Processing Corporation. Honorable Speaker, I support it in regards to the regulations that it's going to create and the licensing that is going to take place. Honorable Speaker, I believe many of us would wish to have gold in their areas and have mining taking place in their areas. But many a times, Honorable Speaker, we find ourselves wondering, where would one start and where would one go to? With the establishment of the Gold Processing Corporation, I believe there'll be a go-to place for anybody who would want to know where to start off on the mining journey, and especially in gold. The second thing, Honorable Speaker, in terms of regulations, I believe the corporation would ensure that for anybody it allows and gives a license, it is somebody who is going to ensure that they protect the workers from hazardous situations and ensure their safety and health as they undertake the mining. Thirdly, Honorable Speaker, in the mining industry, we require a support network, and I believe the corporation is going to offer that, because when we have a one-stop shop in regards to gold, I believe anybody would have anywhere seeking for a market or even looking for a place to try and excavate gold, they would have a reference point to start from the corporation. Fourthly, Honorable Speaker, I believe there should be economic benefits for the locals in the particular area where the gold is being mined, as well as the people excavating that gold. Honorable Speaker, I believe the corporation, in the spirit of licensing, will ensure whoever receives a license is somebody who is going to ensure the economic benefits of that particular gold in the area trickles down to the community and everybody feels benefited from the gold in that area. Honorable Speaker, my fifth point would be with the creation of a gold processing corporation, it's also going to ensure that we preserve our heritage. Honorable Speaker, I know we have gold from Taita Taveta, we have gold from Migori, but as all these gold traverses and gets processed around the world, there is nowhere we hear this gold is from Kenya. So I believe with the corporation, they are going to ensure that our heritage is protected and the world is made aware that this gold is particularly from Kenya. Honorable Speaker, I would also want to add that environment advocacy would be very important, because as we've seen, there are many times where minerals are excavated and pits are left wide open. Left open where water stagnates, this becomes a health hazard to the community. Mosquitoes get a breeding place where our children get sick. They cannot play in those areas. So I believe we need an institution that is going to govern and regulate issues like this, where anybody mining must be required to cover up any pits that are left open. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, in the case of crisis response, in a situation like where we are as a country, where our economic situation is not doing too well, with the Gold Processing Corporation, I believe they would have sufficient data to guide us as a country on our wealth in terms of gold. So we could lack money in terms of currency, but when it goes to minerals that we would have an institution that would tell us we are this rich in terms of gold, and that would enable our country to confidently know that our actual wealth status. Finally, Honorable Speaker, I always say it's Laikipia's time, and I believe with us mainstreaming this industry, it is certainly going to be our time to discover gold in Laikipia. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Patriot Ikomas Mutuse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the decoration and for giving me the opportunity to contribute to the debate on the gold processing bill that has been promoted by the member for Ekolomani, the Honorable Shinyali. From the onset, Mr. Speaker, allow me to congratulate the Honorable Shinyali for the good work in coming up with a private member's bill. It is not easy for a member to engage in their time, to engage in research, to engage technically, to process a bill of this magnitude and to present it before Parliament to address certain deficiencies that they think ought to be regulated in a legal framework. Mr. Speaker, having said that also, it is not lost on us that we are representatives of the people. and by dint of Article 94 and 95 of the Constitution, our work as members of Parliament is to represent the people who elect us. And that there is a sizable population of people in the constituents of the promoter Ikolomani whose livelihoods socially and economically rely on God. And therefore, it is within the place of the member for Ikolomani to propose a law to regulate gold, because a majority, or a rather a sizable percentage of his population also rely on God, as are other places in the country. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, and having listened to colleagues in contributing in this debate, allow me this afternoon to be the devil's advocate. I want to be the devil's advocate just to provoke our thinking so that we may also think broadly and critically. Mr. Speaker, as it is today, the mining in this country of all minerals is regulated under the Mining Act of 2016. And when you look at the citation for that Mining Act, it talks about processing, it talks about transportation, it talks about value addition of minerals. And if you look at Section 2 of the Mining Act, it gives the Cabinet Secretary responsible for mining the power to, number one, under Schedule 2, it lists the minerals that are subject to the Mining Act, and also gives the Cabinet Secretary the power to expand that list. If you go to Schedule 2 of the Mining Act, Mr. Speaker, you will realize that under precious minerals, gold is listed as among the minerals that are under the management and purview. One fundamental question that I will be asking, and is necessary for Parliament to know, is whether we are